What the fuck? Hold on.
Whew.
Oh, it says I am live. Okay. Currently live. And anyway.
Cool.
I'm kind of caught off guard. All right. So this is Joel from Prismatic Reptiles. But before we get into the actual interview / podcast, give a shout out to our sponsors and sponsors, Reptile Super Show. Reptile Super Show puts on an awesome venue. Their venue's awesome. It's a really good show. People come from all over. It's one of the biggest expos. It's definitely a must-see if you're into going to reptile shows. Go to Reptile Super Show. It's in the top 3 if you're going to do reptile shows all over. And there's ones I don't know. I say this all the time. It's a really good show. And then our sponsor, and well, that's our only sponsor for now, but USARK. Let's give a shout out to USARK. USARK fights for our rights to own and keep the reptiles and amphibians that we love. Great organization that helps keep these crazy laws at bay from getting passed. There's always legislation trying to be imposed to infringe on our rights to be able to own reptiles and amphibians. Phil Goss, Daniel, the whole team, Vanessa, many others do a really great job. And they just hired out some new people at Daytona. They announced it. They have 2 new lawyers that are actually pet keepers themselves. And so they have some incentive other than just being paid to actually want to help us out. So USARK has been doing a lot of great stuff. And, so I kind of flubbed the sponsor thing. The Reptile Super Shows are really good. But anyway, let's get into it. This is my friend, Joel Reep. Joel, how long have you been keeping reptiles?
Well, like everybody, collectively kind of all my life, but really seriously since 2012. So I was going to make a new logo this year because it was kind of my 10-year anniversary. Never got around to it, but yeah, 10 years of hardcore keeping and breeding, 12 years since I really kind of dove back in, after being an adult.
Gotcha. And you've been, I think you like you say, you've been in it your whole life. How long have you been herping now?
Seriously, let's see. I really started seriously herping in 2016. That was the year my son was born. That's when I first found my first Utah milks, my first Montana milks, and that I was just hooked after that. Of course, I came from a fishing family, so we found garter snakes and all sorts of amphibians and stuff, kind of incidentally. So all my life also, but yeah, hardcore since 2016.
All right, really cool. And I talked to you about this briefly, but your favorite genus of snakes is the Lampripeltis, kings and milk snakes. So is that what you primarily focus on and breed currently?
Yeah, yep, absolutely. Mexicana and Montane kings primarily. So those include, the Montane kings, well, there's a little overlap there, I guess, but Ruthveni, which I just produced for my first time. I'm very excited about those. Querétaro Mountain Kings. Those are from Mexico. We got Durango Mountain Kings. Those are also Mexicana, Greeri, they're called. And then you got Nuevo Leon Kings, a.k.a. Theori, a.k.a. Variable Kings. Those are probably the most fun to breed because you never know what you're going to get. And then, of course, there are California Mountain Kings. You've got Mex, San Luis Potosi Kings, and Lampripeltis alterna, which are the gray-banded king snakes. So I have all of them except for Lampripeltis webi, which is the most newly described species. And I believe there were 2 DORs. One was still, so that means dead on the road for people who don't herp. One was found dead on the road, way back a long time ago. One was found dead on the road in the last 10 years or so, and it was alive for a while. And then the Herp MX team actually found a living one. So they're obviously the rarest, but they're in cartel country, so we kind of don't mess with those.
Gotcha. The newly discovered one, what did you say the genus on that? Or sorry, the species name?
Webi. So
Webi.
Yep, WEBB.
Okay, and where are those native to?
Man, they get close to Greeri, so I want to say the state of Durango, but I'm thinking Oh, man, I'm blanking right now. Central Mexico, though. I think the Sierra Madre Occidental, I want to say. There's also, no, Oriental is what I want to say. I honestly, every other Mexicana guy is just head over heels for Webeye and want to keep them really badly. I think they're cool, but I honestly don't care to keep them. It's neat that they're rare and there's very little known about them, but they kind of look like a cross between a Mex-Mex and a Greer-Eye. So,
Okay.
I mean, I'll take it or leave it.
That's what my next question was going to be. Like, what do these look like? So
yeah, they're not crazy wild. I think it's kind of funny. Everybody's like, oh, I wish I could get one. I'm like, I don't really care. It's cooler for them to be kind of mystical in my mind, you know?
Okay. Yeah, just be out there in the wild. Because, like the Ecuadorian milk snakes, that's supposed to be one that's kind of argued if there's any really in captivity. And they're supposed to be like the largest of the milk snakes, which I kind of find hard to believe that there's something bigger than a Costa Rican black milk.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, I don't know anything about the Ecuadorian locale. Are they also black or are they tricolored?
No, they're tricolored. There was like a picture of somebody that had one. I can't remember where they claimed it was one, and it was like hard to tell. It's been like a little while since I looked at the picture, probably like a couple of years ago.
Okay.
But it it was a tricolored milk snake, and it looked decent size, but to me, like from what I remember, it's almost like a wild type Honduran milk snake.
Okay.
But so it's something that can be easily, I feel like, kind of like, forged and saying like, hey, this is, this, but is it really?
Yeah.
It looked like a tricolor Honduran to me from what I remember.
Okay. Yeah, I love all the milk snakes and especially the ones south of the border, but I don't keep any other than the black milks and like Blanchardii, Micropholus, all those. I really struggle with keeping those all straight. I don't know a lot about the South American milk snakes, embarrassingly.
Oh, really? Well, because there's like 26, I think, if I remember correctly, subspecies of milk snakes. And the cool thing about that I always thought was that they all integrate at some point. So eastern milk snakes all the way up in Maine, all the way going down through to, Central America to, north, west, South America, they all integrate at some point.
Right.
You own hognose too, don't you? You have some hognose things.
Mm-hmm.
You have like storm cloud projects and everything like that. Mm-hmm. How do hognose rank for you among like Lampropeltis? Is like Lampropeltis then Heterodon?
Man, that is a great question. I would say Lampropeltis, and then I really like my Baird's rat snakes and my Subocularis, the Transpecos rat snakes. Those are really, really high on my list. But yeah, I would say hognose are soon after that. Yeah, I really like hognose snakes a lot.
What projects are you working with the hognose?
So like you say, the storm cloud, I'm working the sunburst, and I'm taking the long way around, just making my own hets and breeding the double hets. So, I could definitely be doing more there to kind of invest more and up my game. But it's kind of fun to just take the long road. And then the newest bloodline that I have is a Super Conda Snow project. And unfortunately, those are the only ones that need any sort of scenting. So I've been really lucky, and that all of the ones that all of my other bloodlines, which I've got like 5 or 6, are all, Knockwood, they don't need any sort of scenting or any encouragement to eat frozen thawed. So I've been super lucky that they just take right off. And so I've got this other project of the Snow Super Conda stuff, and they're great. But yeah, I take a little salamander off the road here and there when I see it and put those to use.
Yeah, salamander works pretty good for scenting. I've actually had salamander work really well when frog won't, and then vice versa. Mm-hmm. You know how it is. They all need something a little different. Frog might work on one, and then salamander might work on the next one, and then vice versa. You got to go through this whole thing of tricks. What about your your let's say like the Greer-Eye? Do they ever need scenting, or are they pretty strong feeders?
Depends on the bloodline. I'm learning more and more the longer I get into this, that the bloodline means more than anything. So that might be locale derived based on what they're experiencing in the wild as far as prey items. But yeah, there's definitely some scenting involved. And what I'm learning also is that I think the most natural thing is for them to go through their first winter and then to come up and start taking meals. So I actually have a wine cooler behind me, and so I've been using that, or I was hoping I'd be using that in order to put them down into brumation sooner and then get them out of brumation, say like January, February, and start working on tricks with them. What I need to figure out though is there's either a carbon dioxide leak or something, or maybe there's just a lack of oxygen because I had deli cups stacked up like this, and I had a couple of snakes die, and they were all like on the same level, and they were, I mean, totally healthy. There were no other issues. So I just was looking for oxygen sensors this week, and they're like the O2, like pulse oxygenation ones that you can get. I don't think that would work. And then there are some like really like heavy duty ones for like, I don't know, some sort of industrial application. They're like $300. So I'm like, man, I think I might end up just having to get another wine cooler. But I do think that's what you need to do mainly, is to put these guys down for brumation, and then naturally they're going to come out in the spring being a little more willing to eat. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense, because actually I've found that with plains hognose snakes too, because they hatch out late in the year. So it makes sense a lot of these colubrids aren't even going to be eating, because when they hatch out, a lot of times it's so close to going into brumation time, or for the seasons, temperatures are changing. The temperatures aren't really adequate anymore for them to be eating. They can't really thermoregulate properly, right. So they're not eating until the following season.
Yep.
And I found brumating baby hognose definitely helps. The first time I seen it was actually at my friend John Rice's place, and he had a bunch of baby hognose, and he'd just brumate stuff to take to get a break. And he brumated his babies too, and he had like 1 or 2 babies that were poor feeders that when they came out of brumation started eating well. I was like, oh, that actually makes sense, because they're hatching so late in the season that, a lot of them aren't actually going to be eating until their metabolic rate becomes elevated and rises back up in the springtime.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, and I've learned that also from herping around here. Utah milks are my favorite snake to find in the wild, and it's pretty clear to me that they hatch with a pretty good amount of yolk and good reserves. And I have no doubt that it's very rare for them. Even Utah Pyros, or even, high mountain Arizona mountain kings, which I think I forgot to mention in the Mexicana and Montane list there. I don't think that they're likely to take a meal at all. And so what I've also been learning is that the more you kind of push that before they're ready, the more that kind of kicks on their metabolism. And then that's when people find themselves losing snakes, because a lot of people will just take them straight out of the incubator. They shed. 3 weeks later, they're offering frozen thawed. They offer, boiled or whatever. And then they go straight to tube feeding, and that just kicks on their metabolism. And then you've got to keep doing those interventions in order to keep them from passing away, which unfortunately I think happens at a higher rate when you're doing those kind of interventions.
Yeah. I try to get the one thing is I comment, because there's people commenting. I'm unable to comment this time because I have the help button is right where my send button's at. So anyway, some people are commenting and I can't even say anything.
That's funny.
Yeah, somebody asked me if I brumate all my baby hognose. I brumate some of them before I send them, but not all of them. But like Joel said, I mean, it's helped some species he's working with. He said the greeri. Are you doing that with other species too, like gray bands as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Well, really, I treat them all the same. Okay. And I should go back. Lamprepeltis pyromelana, the Arizona mountain king snake, is my, I want to say my favorite as far as how many I have. But I'm definitely most invested in the projects with the pyros. So definitely can't neglect to mention them in the conversation.
Gotcha. And then Great Band of Kings used to always have this, they were notorious for being difficult feeders and maybe needed lizard scenting to get to eat.
Yep.
Do you find that with them? Do you ever scent with amphibians, or do you have to scent with lizards? How do you go about your Great Bands?
I have, so this, again, it applies to all of those species. They're all lizard feeders in the wild, period.
Sure.
I mean, if you think about a hatchling king snake that's this big and this big around, not even, going into a rodent burrow and having to come face to face with the parents of that litter of pinkies, it's a wrap for that king snake. So a lot of times when you put a pinky, even frozen thawed, especially live in front of it, they panic. And that's because I think that they know those are going to eat them, if not kill them and just leave them to the side. So yeah, 100%. I don't think any hatchling Mexicana or Montane King is eating rodents. I think it's all lizards until they're adults, of course, or, until kind of like vipers or green trees, when they turn green, they start eating rodents. Same sort of a theory here. They just get to a certain size and they're like, okay, now I can take an adult rodent if I run into one. So yeah, absolutely. I use lizards to scent even in the springtime. A lot of times you can tell based on how the hatchling reacts that they might be a little bit like curious or willing. So then I'll work a little more with them. So I always feed frozen thawed, or I offer, I should say, frozen thawed, unscented to everybody. And a lot of times, I could take you over to my hatchling rack and I use green stickers for the ones that eat. I use pink stickers. I'd use red if I had them, but I use pink stickers for the ones that refuse. And so I use those as kind of my guidebook to what to do next. If they refuse, then I wash the pinkies with dish soap, Dawn dish soap. So removing that scent of rodents, like I say, which can be terrifying to a baby king snake, is helpful and can work a lot of the time. Then the next one that I do is boiled, which I think we need to change the name of boiled pinkies to blanched. A lot of people think you actually boil them and you just blanch them, just super quick. It removes the scent. It also turns them gray and disgusting, but whatever it is about that, they seem to enjoy. And then after that, you can use lizard scenting. And then, of course, you can use combinations of lizard scenting with other things. So a lot of people will brain pinkies, meaning a lot of times I've heard they'll cut the pinky's head like in half lengthwise to get some of the brain material kind of out on the exterior for the snake. And I honestly don't think I've ever had that work. I know a lot of people have. I cannot think. I've been racking my brain. I cannot think of a time I've ever had brained work for me. Deli cupping or bagging, I'm sure you're familiar with, where you kind of force the issue where the snake can't kind of just curl up in the corner. They have to, address the rodent in the room or the elephant in the room, and they have to either eat it or not. That can work pretty well. And then, of course, you move on to the lizard scenting, which I like to do. I did a YouTube video on this, and I think I did a pretty good job of showing kind of all the, like, you look at the table and it's just covered in all sorts of different ridiculous stuff. And it is really ridiculous when it comes down to it. But I like to use a live lizard, like a baby is good, especially if the snake grabs a hold of it, then you can just let it take it. I was a lizard breeder originally, so I don't like feeding lizards to snakes any more than the next person, but I also want the snakes to live. So if that happens, then it happens. But I find that the scent of a live mouse and the movement of a live lizard and the movement of everything really kind of gets them going. But if you don't have that option, you can do a lizard slurry, and that is basically blended up lizards. And so before anybody thinks I'm too horrible, I was keeping some Colubrids, which were western fence lizards, and some sagebrush lizards on my back patio in some chameleon cages. So they're the big 4 foot by 2 foot screen enclosures, and they do great out there. But it became fall, and I have them up on a pallet, so they're kind of raised up. So the cold air got underneath of them, and it froze when it wasn't supposed to. And so unfortunately I lost those lizards, and I was keeping them just for scenting. I've been trying to breed Colubrids for years for this purpose, and it's very difficult. So I had all these frozen lizards. So I was able to make them into this little slurry, which is rather disgusting, but it's lasted me almost 3 years now. And so I'll dip the pinky in the lizard slurry, and then I like to put a lizard skin hat on them, like right on their top of the head or on the snout. And that stuff works like gangbusters. It's really impressive how well that works. I've also I tried all the Reptilinks scents. They have like an anole juice, toad, They have iguana lynx, which are actually a good size for like a hatchling colubrid. The only thing I ever had take those were corn snakes. I've tried with kings, and I've never had any success. Oh, that's right. They have a gecko scent, a frog scent, and I think they have a skink scent as well. And I haven't had any success with any of those. But yeah.
Who supplies all of those?
What's that?
Who supplies all those? The gecko,
yeah, that's Reptilinks.
Oh, I didn't know Reptilinks did that many now, because you said they had the gecko, iguana, and then what was the other one you mentioned?
So they have, I'm pretty sure, maybe they don't have a skink one. I know that they have a frog or a toad one. They have maybe it was a knoll now. I'm trying to think. I could go look. But yeah, they had two lizards. Oh, sorry, Mediterranean gecko or some gecko, house gecko or something like that. I think they had an knoll one. And then they had iguana lynx, which are actually like little encased like iguana meat.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I've had a corn snake go for that a couple times, but and as I don't want to make it sound like mountain kings are so horrible, because they're not. Like, I've heard another breeder say this, and I'll say the same, that I've had corn snakes that were harder to get started than Mexicana and Montane king snakes that were just didn't want to eat anything like that you threw at it. So yeah, it's not just them.
What do you think is the hardest species to get started feeding out of all the ones you have? Because you have these like gray banded king snakes are supposed to be the most notorious king snake that's tough to get feeding, and then you also have hognose snakes. And then corn snakes, the funny thing is corn snakes don't get a bad rap for being difficult feeders when they first hatch, but like my dad bred corn snakes, and he'd have babies every year that gave him a lot of trouble, actually. So what do you think of all the species you work with, like all these king snake species, gray banded king snakes mainly, corn snakes, hognose? What's the toughest one to get feeding?
I want to say you're probably right. The gray banded kings are the hardest, but Durango mountain kings, if you get a batch or a line that's hard, they are really, really hard. So I'd say they're tied. Hognose snakes, like I say, I haven't had that much of a problem with just the bloodlines I was given. And then even this other one that I have is no sweat with a little bit of salamander. Or I find tiger salamanders and leopard frogs in the same drive, so I've got a whole bunch just saved up for that. And I've even sent some to other people and saved their hognose snakes for them, because they're like, what do I do? Yeah,
salamander works really good. And where like hognose are from, their range, you always find there's tiger salamanders in like every range where you find plains. Even these little isolated populations, you'll find like a species of lizard, and then there's usually tiger salamanders and of course other amphibians living there, because there needs to be a food source. Now, one other thing I wanted to ask was like the gray banded kings, when you're doing that lizard slurry scent and putting a little patch of skin on them, are you tongue feeding them, or are you just drop feeding and leaving it in there and they come across and they find it and they eat it?
Normally tongue feeding. Okay. So there's a little bit of a tease element involved, and I should have mentioned that. Tease feeding can be pretty successful. One of my harder bloodlines of Durango mountain kings that I got was from Europe, and the guy Klaus Bexton actually imported his original animals in, I think, 88 from Rancho Santa Barbara. So they're pure locality specific. And they also have all three genes that are recessive as far as we know. So they can make super hypos, which is cool. And the guy that I got him from was just assist feeding with teasing at the same time. So he would grab them, mid-neck, grab the snake mid-neck, and just beat them up with a live pinky. And it takes several tries. I mean, they'll bite it, you'll let go, they'll let go. And it happens over and over. But he was actually really successful with it, and I have been as well. It just takes so much patience. And I think I could probably utilize that more amongst all of, even the Nuevo Leon Kings and some other ones. But it's just such an investment in time. Like this guy was having like 2 or 3 clutches a year, so it wasn't anything for him to set out a paper towel and just whack these snakes in the face for an hour. But, there are definitely more, I think, effective measures. But yeah, I mean, I still use it when nothing else works. A lot of times I actually did it to 2 pyros today. They're yearlings, and they've had 6 meals or something. And maybe 2 out of those 6 they've eaten independently, but the other ones I've just been whacking them with a pinky, and they're like, enough already, I'll just eat it to deal with it.
That's funny. It's funny. It works like it takes that long with some of them. I'd give up. I don't know. That'd be tough to do it for more than a few minutes. I did with tricolor hognose babies one time. I got sent this group of tricolors, and they weren't established, and I had to do kind of like the bumping in the face repeatedly, get him to drink from it and bump it in the face. And after 5 minutes, all of a sudden you see them change a little bit, and they grab it real suddenly. And I'm like, wow, this is messed up. I was like, I'm just doing the same method for 5 minutes in a row, and it finally worked.
Yep. I actually used to be a big time tricolor breeder back in like 2014. I got maybe a 2.3 or something from Europe, and my one female was producing over 100 eggs a year. So I like to say that a lot of the tricolors you see in the hobby now are actually descended from mine, because I was selling, upwards of 200 a year, and they were just not around at that time. It was pretty much me and, one or two other people that might get a few here and there. And I got to a point with them that I just wouldn't even attempt tricks or anything like that. I would just force feed like a pinky head or a tail, or I was tube feeding a lot at that time with like carnivore care and baby food. And I would just right along the line, I'd have, 15 babies or so at a time, and then they'd switch on, and then the next batch would come. And and then once they'd hit 6 months, they would just wake up and eat pinkies one day. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, tricolor hognose are cool. They're not really for me. I like them as a species, but I don't think I want to keep them again. I have heard of that, where to lay multiple clutches, sounds like, I mean, it's definitely, a natural evolutionary thing where those guys produce multiple clutches throughout the year. Yep. So as long as there's a food source and they have the nutrients, they'll keep producing. So it sounds like you're feeding your female very well. And how many clutches were you getting a year from her? Because I've heard they can lay upwards of 5. Were you getting 5 clutches a year from your tricolor female, or you think even more?
6 or 7 sometimes.
6 or 7. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you had like a very good female, or at least a few of them. So that's pretty cool.
It was mostly her. I want to say the other one crashed after like a clutch or two. And it was just the one female for me that was just a powerhouse. And like you say, I was feeding her almost daily a lot of times. And she crashed out, and, she maybe lived, I think, 8 or 9 years. She got like a big tumor, kind of down low onto one side. I think it was maybe a kidney or something, based on what I kind of recall. But
she's got a tumor on her kidney or in that area?
What it looked like, yeah.
I heard the females that produce a lot, they don't live super long, like 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, but I couldn't stop her. So that was the thing, is I didn't introduce a male. So she did this for like 3 years, where she laid over 100 good eggs in a year. It was 100-ish. So maybe it was like 94. It was over 100 one year, where it was right at it. And so finally I was like, you're done. Like, I'm not introducing a male, and I'd have to go back and look at my records. But she just kept on going, kept on laying, and she was laying good eggs for at least a year. And then she was just still laying slugs, at the same rate. So I was like, well, after like 2 years of not having a male in, I just started putting him back in, because it was just her program.
I've heard that you can't do anything to stop them. This one guy I don't want to mention the breeder, but he said he stopped breeding them. He says all the females do. He goes, you breed them, and he goes, they just keep laying eggs repeatedly until they die. And he goes, and they just, there's no way to stop it, because it's like, well, if you slow down on their food so they don't have as much nutrients, what they're going to produce less eggs, or then you're just starving the animal, and then you're going to, so it's like a catch-22. It's like, well, you got to keep that nutrients up. Those nutrients in turn are going to make her want to produce more egg follicles and ovulate again. Yep,
you're right. And the funny thing was, mine had a hypoerythristic gene associated. So mine were all supposed to be hets or something. And unfortunately, so it was hard to ID. And I learned, I don't know, 2-3 years into it, that I was mis-IDing some of them. And so I had a few people come back and they're like, yeah, these aren't hypo-E. And I'm like, they're like 6-8 months old by the time I sell them. So like, I don't know how long you got to keep the things to find out if they're hypo-E or not. But so I don't even know how much I really believe that they were.
Right. Yeah. I think the hypo-E stuff, and I don't know how it works. I mean, that's the one thing, is that they're a variable species, because then, you'd see these ones that turn almost all black and stuff. And it's like, well, this is more polygenics at play and locale stuff. And so I wonder how that hypo-E stuff even really works. So I've never personally worked with it, but I've heard. And then just going on back onto the Western hogs, do you have any visual storm clouds?
I don't. No, I produced my first one last year, and it was dead in the egg, unfortunately.
Oh, that sucks. Because
Kat
just asked to see some hog nose. So I don't know. Like she just talks. So this is Kat. So she's from my Discord group, and pretty much it's trolling and joking and memes all day. So I don't know how serious she wants to see some hog nose. Yeah. I do have some here though. And
I wish I had
too, Joel.
I wish I had a storm cloud. So I'm breeding a sable het axanthic to an axanthic het sable, and what are the odds? Are like 1 in 4, right? That you're gonna get.
You're doing a sable het axanthic to an axanthic het sable.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 in 4 for a visual storm cloud. You're gonna get that awesome quarter split where you have quarter sables, quarter axanthics, quarter storm cloud, quarter normals, all het, 100% hets, and that's really good. It's kind of like doing snow stuff. Like you have like albino het snow to axanthic het snow. You get that perfect, pi fourth, odds, and you have a bunch of different stuff to offer people because there's people that want the high end, people that want mid-range hats, etc.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's great. I'm gonna grab a White Claw real quick out of my kid's little fridge he got here.
I like that. White Claw in my kid's fridge.
I'll show you. It's pretty sweet. He won this at a bingo game.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
So,
I know what you're talking. I've seen those.
That's the first time it's ever had White Claw in it. He keeps Prime in it. These kids are just obsessed with these new age hydration drinks. They're so expensive, too. They're like $2 a pop. They're ridiculous.
And you're out of Idaho, right?
Yes, Pocatello, Idaho.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Let's see what do I have hognose wise that's interesting. I don't know if anybody follows me on Instagram, but I did get a really cool axanthic superconda that was like really high patterned. That was pretty cool. It's kind of tiger striped. I can try to grab that.
Yeah, you can grab that. And then my Paragon Reptiles, he's like, do you see the Pulcher times Dorbigani hybrids? Those are pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. That is cool.
Those are pretty cool. Maybe that will be the answer to females not being overproductive. Maybe the hybrid females don't go as crazy as like a pure Pulcher, where some of them just keep producing clutch after clutch. Because I don't think the Dorbigani like reproduce like the Pulchers do. I don't know much about them.
Here we go. Yeah, back when I was doing hogs or tricolors in like 2014, that Dorbigani, or however you want to say it, wasn't even like fully described or known. Let's see here. I don't even know where my camera is at. This guy's pretty cool.
Oh, is it like a chimera?
I don't know.
I haven't seen that one before. It looks like Paradox or something.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah, it looks really odd.
This camera is just not.
Yeah, the upper part of it, I can't see it super well, but the upper quarter looks just like a super conda axanthic, but then it's got this erratic like blotching. You're keeping that one, right?
Yeah, I am.
Nice.
If you look back on my Instagram, I did a post about, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, and I've got him next to his sibling or her.
I'm on it. I'm looking at your post right now soon.
And I got him just kind of back to back. I thought it was super sick. I'm over here looking at it. I should be. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, it's a really weird, like, okay, it looks like axanthic kind of just really high expression one.
Is it? Okay. I wondered if it was not actually a super conda.
I don't think, no, it's not a super conda, but that's a really wild looking axanthic conda.
Okay. But the other one's super conda, right?
Yes.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, sweet. I'll still take this over a super conda all day.
No, that thing is badass looking.
Yeah, I think they're neat.
Now I'm looking at another post you have here is a desert night snake. That's a snake I really like a lot.
Dude, that thing is a beast. That is a honker. Like, they do not get that big almost anywhere. I sent that to my buddy in Arizona where they're relatively common.
Yeah.
And I didn't say anything about the size, but that was the first comment he made and he's like an old school herper. He's lived there for 60 plus years. He's like, that's a huge night snake. And
how long is that one? A little over 2 foot long.
I think I actually put it in the comment.
You did?
Yeah, I weighed it and I measured it. It pooped out.
That's interesting.
in the time that I had it, it pooped out 2 lizards. And
Really?
I had it for like a week because I have this I don't want to say too much. I have this little area by my house, and there are all these little like brick pavers built up, and this stupid kid who's like 18 started flipping the pavers, and like, so I do it too. I just flip them and put them back down, right, to see if there's a snake there. Well, this dumb kid didn't realize that you could do that, I guess, and he started just throwing them down the hill. So like, these are these nice like platforms that people have built with all these bricks, and this kid just went through and just obliterated them. And I ran into him as I was trying to release the night snake, and I was with my daughter, unfortunately, because it would have turned out differently. But he had 2 gopher snakes. He had one in a bottle, like a water bottle with no air holes or anything. He had one in a soda can, or like a Monster Energy can, and I think he had a racer too in his backpack or something. And he's like, yeah, I found this gopher snake in this can. And I was worried it was going to cut itself on the lip, so I grabbed it, like blah, 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 blah. Anyway, my buddy who found the regal ringneck, who used to work for me, ran into him at a nature area like 2 days later, and he had his backpack full of garter snakes. So this kid's just out there poaching in Pocatello, Idaho, which seems so strange because there's not a lot of like desirable stuff as far as the hobby is concerned. And yeah, so I didn't release the night snake because I ran into this kid and he followed me out of there talking my ear off. But
Okay.
yeah, but what it was like 60 grams or something like that. And
Yeah, that's what it said.
20,
21 inches and 60 grams.
That's insane. So it was probably 70 before it pooped, and it had a stub tail. So I mean, that thing was, dude, I couldn't believe it when I flipped that paver and saw it. It threw me for a loop. I was like, what is that?
Those are pretty cool. And I think the night snakes, they eat like mainly other, like you said, poop, they eat like other lizards. And I think they eat other snakes too.
And, yeah, big time. Yep. They're big time snake eaters.
And they're rear fanged. They have mild venom. That's why I thought they were rear fanged too.
Yep. I'll tell you that a regal ringneck will win though in a fight, because a buddy of mine collected one in Arizona, and he sent me a video of the regal ringneck with a night snake, and it was a wrap. It was, I mean, pretty crazy, the effect that the venom had on the night snake. It was
from the regal ringneck. That's actually impressive. Because I remember reading this study a long time ago, and they were comparing venoms like garter snake. They had Heterodon, I think it was Nassicus, maybe been Platyrrhinos, maybe been an Eastern, and then they had I think, I don't know if they had a ringneck snake in there. It may have been a regal ringneck snake. But anyway, the night snake venom, though, was like pretty potent because they had it chew on other snakes. And then within like, I feel like a half an hour or less, or maybe it was like 5-10 minutes as those snakes are already being subdued. I can't remember, so long ago, but that's what he said. The regal ringneck was actually stronger than the night snake.
Yep, made a meal of it real quick. And there's actually a new observation that's been out. My buddy first saw it on iNaturalist, and someone sent me a YouTube video. Down in Arizona, somebody found a regal ringneck that was predating on a California king snake. And I'll have to send you that video. It is so wild. Like, from the time that the video starts, you can see that the Cal King's already been envenomated just by the way it's moving and stuff. But yeah, people in the comments are like, there's no way that that's a king snake. That has to be another kind of snake, like a long nose or something, because they can take a rattlesnake bite. And that's true. They can take a rattlesnake bite, but rattlesnakes are meant to kill mammals, not other reptiles. So the regal ringneck just wins out because it's meant to kill reptiles. That's what they do. They're so cool. And so that is the main target in my area, is the regal ringneck. The kid that used to work for me found one in May, and I get my numbers mixed up. I'd have to go back and look, but it's like the 5th or 6th one ever found within like a 200 or 300 mile radius. It's really significant. So they're extremely rare here, especially.
What's the biggest ringneck snake you found, lengthwise, roughly?
Dude, I've only ever found one at my milk spot, which was weird because my it's everybody's milk spot, but someone showed it to me and someone showed it to a lot of other people. It's been a whole big thing. Like, there have been fights there and about like sharing the information. And then my buddy Joey Muggleston from Great Basin Serpentarium, I was talking to him at a reptile expo, and he was like, hey, you know that spot where everybody's all mad that everyone's sharing the location? I was like, yeah. He's like, I just did a quick like JSTOR search, on like academic literature. He's like, that spot was published in like 1924, like as like a Taylor spot. So like everybody who's mad about it needs to stop. But anyway, so there have been a million herpers there flipping rocks, millions of hours, and no one had ever found a regal ringneck there. And I found one last year. And then, yeah, other than that, the kid who used to work for me, his name's Henry. He found one this May, and then the one prior to that was the dead one that I found in 2021. And I'll tell you, I envenomated myself on that snake. So I kept it because I'm friends with the herpetologist here at Idaho State University, and he was interested in putting it into a museum collection. So I kept the snake, and I was messing with the mouth. It was late at night. We found it at like 11:30, something like that. So we got home. I was just kind of toying with it, kind of seeing what the teeth were like and what the venom delivery system was, because I still really don't know. And I mean, the one that I found was maybe like, I don't know, 14 inches, something like that, small. And I should have used a microscope, to be honest, to kind of see, but I pricked my finger on the tooth and didn't realize it, went to bed, and then I woke up like an hour later and my finger was just twice the size and just swollen and throbbing so bad I couldn't sleep for like 4 hours. So
it is painful.
It was very painful.
From a regal ringneck.
Yes.
That's insane. Because like the one thing is like I like how you described how you like accidentally pricked your finger on it, because I catch regular ringneck snakes around here, and like just like the northern or midwestern ringneck snake or whatever they refer to them as. But the regal ringnecks I know are quite a bit different, because one thing, they get drastically larger and their diet's different. But the one thing is, like, I'd already assume it's pretty much impossible to get, this is an assumption, impossible almost to get bit by a regal ringneck in a defensive bite. Because, like, the ringneck snakes, like, I've never even seen one strike. That's not in their defense mechanism to strike. So, but you just pricked your finger on it, so that's just barely anything. So you actually got just a very little amount.
Right. Imagine if it had chewed on me. So the funny
horrible
thing,
then.
Yeah. The funny thing about the regal, so I found the little one in Utah, and so we were all down there camping. I showed it to my mom, and I'm like describing to her what it is, and I'm telling her exactly this, that they don't bite, that they're venomous, but they don't bite, blah, 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 blah. I'm handling the snake, and her eyes get all huge while I'm holding it. I'm like, what is your deal? Like, and she's like, it's chewing on you. And I looked down, and sure enough, this freaking regal ringneck was chewing on my finger. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, what happened with that one?
Nothing at all. It didn't break my skin. I mean,
okay.
It couldn't have broken my skin because I didn't feel it. I mean, when I looked, nothing was really happening. So yeah, I was lucky, I guess. But yeah, I was like, what is this thing on her? What is this expression? And she's going, oh, it's venomous, but it's sitting there chewing on you, dude.
All right, we had a lot of requests for the zebra fellas, and then we had somebody. Do you have rhino rats too?
I have rhino rats, yes.
Yeah, Solar Flare Slithers wants to see some rhino rats.
Okay. Oh yeah, before we're off the ringneck thing,
yes.
Christina just reminded me, I found another ringneck, which was technically not a regal. I don't know what they call them, but I found, to me, they're a regal ringneck, way more so than, I don't know. I honestly think that some of the like really common like fossorial ones from back in, back east or central United States probably shouldn't be lumped in the same category. I don't know how the taxonomy should work with them, but I found one in the Sierra Nevadas when we went to look for Zonata, which are California mountain kings. And I had a really rare observation. So I put the thing in a little deli cup thing, a little like food prep container, because we were like deep in the forest. And so I wanted to get out where it was at least dappled sunlight to take pictures of this thing. And I took the little deli thing out, and I'm like looking at the snake. I'm like, what's going on here? So I opened the thing up, and the reason that it looked so weird is because it had puked up a sharp-tailed snake. So I was like looking at the venter of one snake and the dorsum of the other, and I was like, it just threw me for a loop. I was like, what the hell am I seeing? So yeah, that what do they call it? A Sierra ringneck had eaten a sharp-tailed snake. So I shared that with Robert Hansen, who's like the OG of all of the Mexicana stuff. He's a herpetologist who lives in the Sierras, and he was like, man, too bad you're like a month late, or I don't know how late, but he's like, somebody just barely published that same exact predator prey interaction. This is only the second time that's ever been documented. So that was pretty interesting.
That is. Now, when we're on the topic of bites and it's ringneck snake bite, what's the story with your friend that got bit by, I think it was a baby Gila monster?
Yeah, it was when I was an adult, I think. Oh,
it was an adult Gila?
Yeah, it was an
okay.
adult. So, man, I forgot to message. So I learned this story when I was at the Outback Oasis Motel looking for gray banded king snakes in Sanderson, Texas. And so Roy Engeldorf was who owned that establishment at the time. He since sold it and moved to Kansas City. He told me about Terry Vandevetter, who I have never spoken to, but he's pretty. I mean, he's very legit and followed by a lot of people online. He keeps venomous. He keeps non-venomous. He's an old school herper. He's like a really cool guy. Like I say, I've never talked to him. But from what I remember about the story, it was 2 Gila monsters. So he took a frozen thawed mouse, fed it by hand, and the Gila monster grabbed his thumb. And so he like called his wife, was trying to get it off. They couldn't. And so as he's like just kind of waiting for it to let go, he's like, well, there's another mouse over here that I don't want it to go to waste, I guess. That's how it sounded, at least. He's like, I'm going to take this and feed it to the other one while I'm waiting for this one to let go. So he feeds it to the other one and he gets his other thumb bit. So this has literally 2 Gila monsters on both, a Gila monster on each hand at the same time. Yeah. So yeah, even I remember Roy Engeldorf was like, I shouldn't tell you. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna say it. It was Terry better. He's like, this is the dumbest thing I ever
heard. What was the aftermath of that? Was it both his hands like on burning fire?
Yeah, I didn't hear too much about the aftermath, but I mean it was very painful for a very long time. It wasn't anything that you think it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was bad.
That's one thing too that I hear about, like the Gila bites. A lot of times the Gilas just won't let go. I think it was Dr. Stahl was telling my friend Steve that he's actually seen people come into the ER and have had stories of at least people coming in the ER with Gilas still attached to them because the Gila won't let go.
Oh,
it seems like beadeds will let go because, like, I have never heard of that with a beaded, and I've had them.
Telling yourself that.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, I've had them bite my welding gloves, and they never hang on for longer than 10 seconds. They'd always let go. And I had this one bite it, and I just like lifted it up, and then it was just like hanging there, and it hung on for about 5 seconds, and then it let go. So I was like, all right, it seems like these guys let go or more likely to.
Good. Yeah, that bodes well for you. Yeah, I can grab a rhino rat. And I think Jacob knows exactly what he's doing by asking me to do this. Asshole.
Yeah, Jacob keeps. Yeah, I think he's asked for a few. I think he's had a few requests.
I think it's because he got bit by one here. He wants to see if I can run the gauntlet.
I might grab a beaded too. I got a beaded request.
Oh yeah, if we're handling things that bite, I do have a hook. I hope that's okay. So this is the sister to the one that did just lay. Whoa, Jacob.
Your rhinos are that bitey?
Right now, yeah. Look at her. She's like, oop, oop, oop. When I get them out and have them out for a minute, and they realize what's happening, she still hasn't realized that this isn't a feeding situation. My male, who I've had a lot longer, he knows what it is to be handled. And see there. Thanks, Jacob.
What's that fish naked bumper sticker? Like sticker on the side?
Oh man, Her mouth was just wide open.
Oh no, I didn't see it.
Fish naked. Yeah, I got bit.
There you go. Now you need the other thumb, like the Gila guy.
Yeah. Thanks, Jacob. I appreciate that. Oh, she bit her own tail. That's fun.
Yeah, there she is.
There you go. Yeah, that bumper sticker. My girlfriend Christina told me to buy that, and we were at, I think we were in Bailey, Colorado, and she was like, "Yeah, you should get that." And then I put it on my incubator, and she's like, "Why'd you put it on your incubator?" I meant put it on your truck. I was like, I don't know, I'm comfortable having everybody think that about me.
It looks like something from Colorado. I thought maybe it's a brand of something, but
yeah,
it's
so Colorado, isn't it?
It is. I'm gonna get a beaded.
So I did get some rhino rat eggs this year, but unfortunately they were all slugs. This girl's sister. So I produced 3.4 back in 2019, and my female unfortunately passed away, the one that laid the eggs. And so I kept a pair, and then I bought back a pair for my buddy Aaron Marshall, who lives in Boise, Idaho. And this is the female that I've raised up from birth. The female that he raised up actually ovulated this year. So I went ahead and threw the male in, but it was too late. I knew it from kind of the jump that it was too late. Well, actually, I threw my older male in way early in the season just to see. And then, yeah, I kind of missed the window. So, yeah, I got 5 slugs from one of my rhinos. But next year, I stand to get 2 clutches. So, yeah. And talk about fun. When we're done with the beaded, let me tell you about the process with getting these guys feeding.
Oh, really? Is it fucked up?
It's annoying. It's definitely annoying. And I learned a little bit more about it from a recent podcast from someone who works with the rain rat snakes, which are basically rhino rats without the rostral scales, you know?
Yeah.
Dude, that's impressive that he reminds me of Snoop Dogg during the Olympics.
The way his face is just up to the camera,
yeah.
Straight on. I like Beaded's faces a lot better than Gila monsters. Some people are like, well, I like the Gila's colors better, but man, I like Beaded's disposition, and I like their flatter, wider heads better. I like the Beaded's face a lot better. I like Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, I agree. Dude, that was so strange that people paid him $9 million to be like the liaison to the Olympics. What in the world? Like,
yeah, you know, I mean, I wish I'd get that. I mean,
yeah,
that'd be nice, even like a fraction of that.
Because porn didn't work out for him, and his football coaching, it was just bizarre, dude. Like, why are we? I like Snoop Dogg as much as the next guy, but I thought that was just so strange.
I feel like he wants to do a little bit of everything. He's just having fun. Like, he has his own type of wine.
Oh,
you know, he does the rapping.
Yeah,
you know.
Didn't you see the memes about Snoop Dogg has won the game of life? Like, 100%. He won, and now he's just doing whatever. It's awesome.
This isn't Banana Man, Julie. This one, I don't really have an official name for him yet, because I'm pretty sure this one is a male. I mean, it is a size where you can sex him now. I'm pretty sure this is a male. I was thinking about naming him like Starry Night or Van Gogh because of his coloration. But he likes to be cradled. He's not Banana Man. Banana Man's an exasperatum. This is a horridum. Now, this guy is shedding, so he looks kind of like dirty. He's got a bunch of that excavator clay on him. But if you see these patches that are like fresh shed, he's like pretty black. These are the high black horridums.
That's awesome. I like the name Starry Night. That's pretty good. Oh, I got another cat, Jeff.
Oh, you did? What kind of? It looks like a Siamese.
It is a Siamese, but it's a snowshoe Siamese, which is a cross between an American Shorthair and a Siamese.
Okay.
That's why she's got the little white paws.
Yeah, the white feet. I noticed something was off, and I didn't know what it was until you said it. It's like, okay, it's the white feet. That makes sense because the normal Siamese have the black feet.
So we rescued her off the side of the road when we were road cruising, and dude, she was hungry, thirsty, just not being taken care of. We weren't even sure if she was weaned or anything. So we got her home and started Googling stuff about. I was like, this is just such a good-looking cat. Like, there's got to be more to the story.
Yeah,
turns out, yeah, we found it on the road that we cruised for herping. And I mean, there are like farmhouses around. People just like have farm cats just to kill rodents and all the snakes that I'm trying to find. And so yeah, we picked her up, come to find out, she's worth up to $4,000.
That's what I was about to say. It looked like an expensive cat. I figured, I was like, oh, this looks like a, like it's a Siamese white shoe or whatever you call it. I was like, this sounds like, and it looks really clean. I'm like, that looks like an expensive cat.
Yeah. That's what made me think of it. You said Starry Night, and her eyes are absolutely like sapphire blue, just the most gorgeous thing. Seems a little bit blind, maybe, like a little kind of dinky, but yeah, she's cool, man. She's real weird. Like she'll like stand up and like grab you and like try to like pull you into her head and stuff. Like she's a very interesting animal. The way that she behaves, it's very different from our other cat. But yeah, you mentioned on the other podcast how we went herping with my cat, so I figured you'd enjoy that.
Yeah, that cat was fun because I can't remember what was their cat's name.
Victor.
Yeah, Victor would follow us around. He would kind of like hang back, but he wanted to be near us, or he wanted to lead. And then he was like kind of like out exploring. You're like, oh, he'll come back when he wants to, and he would.
Pretty crazy. I've since gotten a dog, so I do have a Rottweiler now, and he's I
remember when you had, because Dad was at the show. That was like brand new, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, we had the puppy there, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, so after we almost lost Victor at my milk spot, we haven't brought him herping as much. So the funny thing about him, when we were herping, it was kind of like later in the afternoon. It wasn't super hot, but when we took him out rock flipping and the like intensity of the sun was just crazy. It wasn't very hot. It was like 70, but I heard you talking about on a podcast. What was it? Not sun power. But it was like radiation, right? Like last week.
Okay. Yeah. The UV
files.
Okay.
Yeah. She had a really interesting term for it that I hadn't heard before, but basically that, where you're just like, oh my gosh, like the power of the sun is just nuts. So he was like running behind us and he was like panting. And he looks so crazy with his big canines panting. Like he looks so scary. Like he's about to just jump on you, like from a horror movie. Like he's just tired, but he just looks so scary. But he curled up under a sagebrush while I was kind of flipping around the hillside. And then we couldn't find him for like an hour. We were like, Victor, like we were like, oh, did he go up the stream? Did he go down the stream? Because we were right next to the stream. We were tripping out. So I basically had to just like split every little branch of all the sagebrush in the area, and we finally found him, and he's just cooling under there like, what's up? So
since then you've been apprehensive about taking him herping because of that.
Yeah, a little bit apprehensive about that. But yeah, if you want to talk about the rhino rats though, as far as the feeding, does that make you uncomfortable when he starts?
I'm wondering if he's like, the way he's looking at me, I'm like, it almost looks like he's looking for food. It's his reaction to like when I give him mice and lay him in front of him. So I'm just kind of like, as I'm like paying attention and talking to you, I'm like, this fucking guy could just turn and just start chewing on me thinking I'm food, and then I'm done for. Actually, I think a feeding response bite would actually be better than a defense bite because they're venom solely for defense. So I'm wondering if every time they chew on something, if they put venom into it. I'd imagine they do. I don't want venom from one of these guys. If he bites me it's like I'm immediately flinging him off.
We'll throw him, yeah, for sure. And maybe that could be part of why I didn't hear much about the aftermath of the double thumb incident, because it could have been just the feeding deal where it's like these Gila monsters weren't defending themselves. They were obviously just trying to eat a mouse and being captive bred, I assume, and in captivity. Maybe it wasn't that bad. I don't know.
I don't know.
I can't imagine it wasn't. But...
Yeah, because then the thing is, too, if they're not letting go, that would make you think, like, with rear fang stuff, and even though they're not rear fang, they have the venom in their mandibles, essentially. Yeah, those jowls there. You'd think that maybe it is used sometimes if something is struggling,
Right, true.
So possibly.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't want to.
Wife is tugging.
Yeah, I don't want to experiment. Ask some like more people that know him better further in the story. They'll probably be like, "Oh yeah, the next couple days for him were actually quite horrible as he shit and pissed himself and vomited."
Yeah, I'm gonna ask. Yeah, I meant to ask more about. I will get the rest of the story and get back to you for sure.
What's the rhino rats? How are you getting these things feeding? What's the tricks you got to pull with these guys?
Their natural history is super interesting. So kind of similar to green trees. What else were we just talking about? Of things that change color, and then well, we weren't talking about, so green trees change color, right? And their diet kind of changes at the time that they change color. So it's also an arboreal snake that turns green. Have you ever seen a hatchling rhino rat?
I have. They're like brown, aren't they?
Yeah, they're brown or like
a
grayish.
Yeah.
They have a little bit of pattern. And that's because where they're from in Vietnam, I think North Vietnam and Southern China, they actually will congregate around rock pools and they eat fish. And so I actually think that the rostral scales are more for baiting fish than they are for anything else. A lot of people say that it's maybe like a caudal lure. I mean, it wouldn't be a caudal lure. I don't know what you call it when an anterior lure. For like birds or insects or things like that as adults, but I think it's more so anyway, yeah, they congregate around rocky pools, so of course when they're down around these river rocks and stuff, they blend in a lot better. So and then as they start to age, they get up a little farther into the trees, the vegetation, and they turn green. And then they start to eat rodents that run along like vines and birds and stuff like that. I think people kind of lack to realize how many rodents are kind of running around the forest, like up higher than you would think, especially in Southeast Asia. Like in the United States, that's kind of hard to imagine that there are rodents like up like head high, but that does happen. So anyway, in captivity, yeah, basically you just have to feed them fish until it's kind of like the tricolors, until they're like 6 months and they just wake up one day and they're like, okay, I'm ready to eat a mouse. But yeah, they'll turn green around like 15 to 18 inches. And then at that time, yeah, dude, they are just gangbusters for rodents. There's no problem at all. But yeah, they're kind of a pain. I actually was kind of glad that my female laid bad eggs. I was like, if they're going to go, I'd like them both to go and then have like a grip of these guys to take care of, because I don't want to go to the pet store and have to get rosy red for just like, say only 3 of them hatch or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of a pain. And you just put them in the water bowl. That's the cool thing about it, though. I mean, I'm acting like it's this huge pain in the butt, but it's really not. You just put them in the water bowl and they get all crazy and they stick their nose in the water and stuff, and they just boom, boom, boom. They'll eat like 8 or 10 of them and get super full, and they're like garter snakes that way.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, it sounds like a garter snake kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Garter snakes though are a little more versatile though, because you can it is like a garter, but not to get too specific, because of course they'll also eat worms and stuff. But the rhino rats, so when they get bigger, they take the rodents really easily.
Yeah, once they get bigger. Oh yeah, absolutely. I do have a couple that won't. Well, I shouldn't say I do. I have had a couple that won't eat anything but live though. And it seems to be kind of season specific. Well, it doesn't seem to. It always has been. The males, like in the springtime, they just don't want to eat. But if you throw them a live mouse, they will. And then the females, I've had them go off food. They can be pretty montane. So I think they're just kind of like, well, when that barometric pressure drops and fall is upon us, stop eating. But you can entice them with a live mouse.
Yeah, Pale Scales has some rhino rats. The rhino rats are pretty cool. I've kind of always wanted to get them, but I've never owned a rhino rat before.
Dude, when you get a chance, look up the Hainan rhino rat snake. So it's a new subspecies. So Hainan is an island off of South China, and they are different because they have more pattern. So as adults, they look the same because the pattern goes away. But as babies, they have really cool kind of, I don't know how to, like maybe Aztec type of like a indigenous type patterning to them. And they have a much longer snout with the rostral scales extending.
Really?
And it's kind of like more straight. They're super cool. So my buddy in Europe is working on getting me a trio. And I'm really, honestly, that's like the only colubrid that I'm like super jacked on getting into is the Hainan.
Hainan, how big how much bigger do they get?
I think they're pretty much similar in size. They're just a different locality, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm probably gonna put the beaded back because this thing is like, it just wants to crawl around.
I don't blame you. I had to put I actually put that rhino rat back, and she did not want to come off the hook, so I just put the hook in the tub with her.
That's a good idea. Yeah, these guys, they're fun to handle, but the one thing is their claws get into you a bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're meant for climbing.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. When you see a lot of people posting pictures of those in Mexico, they're up like tree trunks and stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of the time. And because they're nest raiders, right? So like whether it's a nest underground or a nest in the crook of a tree, they're going for it. From what I know. So that's
they're eating the bird eggs. They're eating probably baby birds too. I mean, when you watch these guys, go after food, they're not very fast. So it's not like they're hunting anything down. They got to eat stuff that's fairly stationary.
Yep.
So I'm gonna put them back.
Cool. Yeah, let me think. What should we discuss while he's gone? I think we should definitely talk more about Arizona Mountain Kings. Definitely looking forward to some of the double recessives and triple recessives. We have, let me think, 4? Yeah, we have Applegate Special, which is kind of a hypo type gene. We have hypoerythristic, which is like anerythristic, but just not quite as extreme. So they're washed out in the red band. And then we have hypomelanistic, the BHB line, and the Sense hypo line. And then we have albino. So we have 4 recessive genes to work with. So far, the Applemel is the first one that was produced, the first double recessive. Oh, no, sorry. I want to say the Hibino, actually. So BHB, hypo, and albino was probably the first. The second one was Applemel, which is Applegate and amelanistic or albino. I produced the Ghost, which was Sense hypo and hypoerythristic next, which was in 2022. And then last year, somebody produced the first Snow Pyro, which was hypoerythristic and albino. And I didn't know this. This whole time I'm like, man, I'm so far behind on the Snow project. But it turned out that animal died. And so there wasn't a Snow in existence until the guy made it again this year. So now there's a Snow again, and it looks awesome. And next time we talk, I need to send you some pictures so we can kind of reference some specific animals. But yeah, I'm just talking about the different Arizona Mountain King projects right now because we're just starting to get into the double recessives. So you know how like in Hognose it was kind of limited when you're just doing albino and pastel pinks and that kind of thing. And then you start getting Snows. And so we're kind of just in that phase right now with Arizona Mountain Kings. And it's so exciting, man. It's super fun. But the problem with these animals is they only lay like 3 to 7 eggs if you're lucky. And you can't double clutch them pretty much ever. So it's a long process.
I didn't know that about Mountain Kings. The Arizona Mountain Kings rarely double clutch.
Very rarely. I had one this year. I had a shot at another Ghost. I'm trying to think. Yeah. She laid, oh yeah, that's what she did. She laid 1 good egg the first clutch, and I do think it hatched. And she was like super skinny. She put everything she had in that 1 egg. I didn't reintroduce a male because I didn't want her to lay a second clutch. And then she double clutched and she laid all 3 slugs. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, so now she just looks like a beanpole. It just looks absolutely terrible. I'm like, well, not much I can do about that. But yeah,
I can't even find a picture of a Ghost Arizona Mountain King.
If you look down far enough on mine, you can find on my Instagram. You can find it.
I should have done that because I use Google.
I'll go grab it if you want.
Yeah, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I got the hypos here.
Those 2 are Applegates. So
those are Applegates?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. So me and John Lassiter will go back and forth all day about whether it's a hypo or it's not. I say it's a hypo, but he says it's not.
Are they selectively line bred?
No, it's recessive.
That's recessive?
Yep. Bob Applegate. got the first
Well,
one.
I mean, it's missing the black, so it's
It
reduced
is.
to black. It's hypomelanistic.
That's technically that's what you say. Yeah, and even the little bit of black that does happen on them is washed out. So that's where my argument lies. But yeah, this is the only ghost pyro in the entire world. It's sense hypo and it's hypoerythristic. So
Yeah, that's right. I heard you say that over. So yeah, because when I was washing my hands and arms, you said hypoerythristic because yeah, so it's not like a actual xanthic. It's
nope.
just it's a hypo of earth or force.
So you can see that the red is way.
Yeah, it's really bleached out.
The camera is way over here. It's really freaking me out. Anyway, yeah, the red is on these guys. The red is normally, dude. Where is this camera? I think I found it now. Okay, the red is normally red, and the black is normally true black. But you can see that washed out, kind of like purpley color.
Yeah, it's like hazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like ghostly.
Perfect name for it, right?
It is.
And the name was picked before I ever made it. Everybody was like, yeah, it's basically anery. Hypo-E is the same sort of deal. And then, of course, with hypo in corn snakes, that's a ghost. So in pyros, it's a ghost too. But yeah, that's what's exciting about the hypoerythristic is that all the other genes affect the black banding. And those are all the genes that we had for the longest time were Applegate, hypo, and albino. And they all kind of did similar stuff. So adding the hypoerythristic really kind of opened up a whole new world for what we could do. And the funny thing about the hypo-E is this guy named Terry Dunham, he was the OG of pyromorphs. He was looking for snakes in, oh gosh, let me think, Cochise County, the Chiricahua Mountains in Arizona. Whoops, scared her. And so he was looking for pyros specifically. And he came across some kids that were messing with something like in this grassy area. He was like, what are you guys doing? And they were like, we're messing with this snake. So he's like, can I see it? And turned out it was a hypoerythristic pyro these kids had found. And they were just playing with it. They weren't being like mean to it or anything. They were just handling it. And he asked them if he could have it. And they gave it to him. And turned out it was recessive.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture of her now. Is there any other morphs in Arizona Mountain Kings other than the hypoerythristic and the hypomelanistic?
There's albino.
And
there's Applegate, and then there's the striped morphs.
So is there two types of hypo and an Applegate, or?
Yeah, there's three. So there's Applegate, which basically erases all of the black. And then there's hypomelanistic from BHB's line. And then there's hypomelanistic from the Sense line, which is a guy's last name. Okay. And so there's technically three lines of those. I can get an Applegate if you want to see.
Yes.
And then I have an Apple Mel, which is the albino Applegate.
Yeah, and that's the one reason, because pale scales, if they're just the morphs that are underproduced. Well, Arizona Mountain Kings, like Joel was saying, in general, just don't lay many eggs. And they don't double clutch, hardly ever, which I didn't know that either. I just learned that from Joel. You serve level one. Said, all right, so you're saying my right, so this side, or is it your right? So my right, rogue 4, calm 3 from the right. So you're looking 1, 2, 3, 4. That one there, right there. It's purple extreme red albino anaconda. Because that would be column 4 and 3 from the end.
Okay, so these guys aren't really cooperating. I was going to grab two of them, but this is an Applegate. And last year I actually made hypo Applegates. So I made BHB hypo Applegates, which I actually never intended to really do because I didn't think it would look like anything. And they're actually super sick. The red is like way more washed out. So with pyros, no matter what morph, you're always going to get the obligatory black on the head. So that's all washed out on the hypo version or the truly hypomelanistic. But yeah, so that's the other double recessive that's been made. But yeah, so far as I know, there are no quad hets, and the only triple hets that I know of are triple het, hypo-y, albino, and Applegate.
Joel, you're seeing the comments, right? Can you see the comments?
No, dude, I've been ignoring them entirely. Should I look?
Well, I've been highlighting some of them, but some of them kind of like are questions for you. You've actually been getting quite a few, and
okay. Sorry, yeah, I've been watching this on the StreamYard thing, and I haven't been watching it on YouTube because they're not synced up, so that was throwing me off. That's why.
Okay, and does Joel have any Alafe Shrink guy?
No, those are Korean rats, right? I do not have any of those.
Okay.
Nope, I don't have any. No, I don't have any Alafe anymore. Mollendorfi are, depending on how you want to look, they were Alafe, Mollendorfi, and then they got reclassified, I think, most recently.
No, I don't. Russians.
Oh, Russians. Okay, yeah. That's right. No, I don't. As far as rat snakes, I'll just break it down for you. I got rhinos. I have all the bamboo rats except for Coxeye.
Coxeye. That one's funny.
Yeah. I have well, yeah, that's all I have as far as old world rats. I don't have any other old world rats other than those.
And yeah, Taxonomy got rid of the rest of their Alafe for you because they changed core snake to Pituophis.
Exactly.
Or, sorry, Pantherophis.
Pantherophis, yeah. Yep. Yeah, let's see. No, dude, I've been thinking about false water cobras, to be honest. They're pretty darn cool. I like the lavenders.
What about, you have Pituophis, right? You have like gophers and bull snakes.
I have Cape gophers. I have a really cool pair of bull snakes. They just produced a wicked clutch for me because the male hypo is quad het for the other genes, and the female is patternless quad het for all the others. So I made some really, really cool stuff. Like the albino patternless really sticks out to me. Unfortunately, I got my first clutch of Cape gophers this year, and they were like humongous eggs for her and just started dropping like flies. I've got one that's still hanging on, and I will see if it hatches. But she's a first-year female, so you know how that goes with colubrids. That's pretty common, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Boss Hogs posted that with one of his bull snakes. I guess the first year laid these jelly slugs or something like that he described. And I don't know if it was the second season breeding her or the third season. She laid like, it was a lot of eggs, man, like around 20 perfect eggs.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
Yeah, maybe like 18. It was a lot. It's like 16 or 18. And maybe like, he had one clutch that had like over 20. I didn't know bull snakes that laid such large clutches.
Those eggs are huge too. They're
exactly. They're big eggs. They're not just like, they're not small. These things are like the size of they're like, I don't know, like chicken eggs. Chicken egg.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, like extra large chicken eggs. And I was impressed with my female. She had a hard time early on. She just, I don't know if it was like a short like crypto deal or I don't know what it was. She regurged a few times and just didn't do well, but I gave her Flagell and she came right back, and I didn't think she was even ready to breed this year. I didn't even brumate her because of that, and she laid 10 perfect big old chicken egg sized eggs. So yeah, I was super happy with those. I could bring out a bull snake. They're a lot.
Yeah, bring out a bull, or maybe a Cape gopher. Cape gopher would be pretty neat.
Cape gophers are cool, yeah. Dude, they're super chill until they're not. They have like a tolerance, and then once you pass that, you are dead meat. So let's see about that. I gotta go put this one away in the other room though first.
Yeah, Cape Gopher is pretty neat. So I've seen them at shows, but like as babies, and I kind of just like glance at them and imagine what he's going to be bringing out. It's going to be an adult.
I gotta get that hook back out from the rhino rat.
Perry, he mentioned flat. Well, he says, it could have been a flare up like that. Flagell is antibiotic, and definitely treats bacterial infections. So, and it helps with stimulating appetite too. So it's likely that it was just a bacterial infection for it to have an effect on the ailment. You didn't mention pines. I think he just has bulls and gophers.
Yeah, I have no pines. Yeah, like I say, I don't. Crypto is just the easiest thing to kind of say like what it was akin to. Obviously it wasn't.
Yeah, pretty fucking serious stuff. It is that.
Yeah, obviously it wasn't, or she'd be dead. But it was something like that, where her belly was
pretty nice looking.
These guys are really, really pretty.
Yeah, Paragon. Yeah, I'd flagellate wolf fight protozoa and parasites. I don't know exactly which ones. Because that's the reason why it gets mixed up with Panicure a lot, is because like people will use it for that, but it actually doesn't have any effect, I don't think, against roundworm. Panicure does, but flagell is an antibiotic, and it's mostly for treating bacterial infections. I don't know what protozoa though it's really targeted for.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know in lizards a lot more about what metronidazole can do, but
yeah, that's like a lot of times people use it for an appetite stimulant, but really what it is, it's like if an animal has an upset stomach, a lot of times there will be a pH level imbalance, and there will be an elevated bacteria that can be upsetting their stomach. So the flagell can help mitigate that, but it's supposed to have properties in it that help with appetite too. I don't know exactly what. I always thought, I'm like, this is just like a antibiotic. So the effects of this appetite is because of the antibiotic working against bacteria, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
I agree with you. I think it's more that it cures the upset stomach and makes them want to eat again, more than it is about making them hungry directly.
Exactly, because it's an antibiotic. It's not like it's like other stuff. Like also there's like, it's not like like Pepto-Bismol or something like that. Where there's like pain relievers in Pepto-Bismol. The main ingredient is bismuth, this mineral that absorbs toxins and helps bond and absorb stuff. But anyway, that's a nice looking gopher. Is that that's like a sub-adult?
He's an adult. I mean, they get bigger.
Adult? Okay.
Yeah, they get bigger for sure. These guys are weird about food. They're not like my Great Basins that just smash it. Like, they usually won't take it off tongs. They refuse, I don't know, 1 out of every 4 times. They're just really not super crazy about food. They won't eat live. They're weird. Like, even after the female laid, I actually got worried and started offering her live because she didn't eat for like 4 weeks after she laid, which was crazy for a colubrid to do.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, she's doing fine now. She's pretty much back up to weight. Yeah, they get a little bigger than this, but honestly, I don't think that they get like over 4 feet.
Okay, I didn't know the Cape Gopher stayed that small.
Yeah, I could be wrong. I have a buddy who found one in Baja last year, but it was a hatchling. I've seen herping videos though, and I've seen them found in the wild, and I really just don't think that they are that huge, surprisingly.
So are these a few descendants from like a wild, caught locale? Are these a specific, or are these just?
No. There's a guy in Boise of all places, and he's bred them forever. I mean, he had babies at shows 12 years ago, and so he's had them forever and ever. I don't know where he got them from. I don't think he even really knows. Maybe he does, but yeah, no, I don't know anything about the locality, but they're certainly pure vertebralis. There's no mistaking.
Yeah, those markings and that coloration.
Yeah, he's now constricting the hell out of my hand.
Yeah, because I've seen like regular gophers that can get really big. Would you see that guy? I don't want to exaggerate because I hate when people exaggerate size. Like, I feel like it's like fishing stories where somebody said they caught like a huge bass, but I know it was over 7 foot. Somebody it was a wild male gopher snake that was over 7 foot. I think it was like 7'2" or something like that.
Do you remember where it was from?
There's this guy on Instagram. It was pretty recent. It was like less than 2 years ago. And the guy that found him was like, he's like a really big dude. And he lives like, in the Southwest. I can't remember what state. I think he
Okay.
might be California, and he does a lot of rattlesnake removal videos, and he gets calls too for like gopher snakes.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, Sonorans, dude, I've heard Sonorans can get like, well, I think the literature last time I saw said that Sonorans can get up to 11 feet long. So
all right, now the 11 foot. Now that's a bass story. That's a fishing story right there.
Crazy, yeah.
Whoever found an 11 footer, man, they had a fucked up tape measure.
Yeah, but to be fair, the biggest gray banded king snake was 72 inches. So, I mean,
that's big. But I know black rat. I think the record is like 8 foot 2 inches. And then I know bull snake is like somewhere in the 8 foot range.
Yeah, but for a gray banded king snake, which is 3 feet normally, that's absolutely.
Oh, you say gray banded king snake?
Yeah.
There's one that's found 72 inches.
No, sorry, it's 57 is what it is. 57 inches, but still.
Okay, that's still massive.
Still ridiculous.
Kat says she's the one that found the giant gopher snake. I know it wasn't her.
I've seen them around the Green River area of Utah that were over 6 feet, for sure. In my area, they don't get over 5 feet though. People talk about them being 6, 7 feet here. I found one dead on the road in 2018, and it was exactly 5 feet, and it was 800 grams. And it was humongous. It was ridiculous how big this thing was. I found a couple that were kind of close, but that's like my big. Oh, dang.
This is the best record.
100 inches.
Joe,
there you go.
The largest gopher snake ever recorded was 100 inches long. So an even 100 inches, which is like 8 foot something. According to MARC in 1997, however, adults typically range from 37 to 72 inches. They can live up to 30 years in human care. It should just say in captivity. I don't know why I said in human care. Sounds like I wrote this shit. They can be found in a variety of habitats, and we don't need to read the rest of that because we already know more. And this one says the maximum length is 105 inches, updated in 2016. So I don't know if somebody found one or if they're just saying, like, if somebody found one that's 100 inches, why not 5 inches longer?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I don't know where I heard 11 feet, but it's definitely stuck out to me because I'm like,
I've heard of people saying like 9 foot and stuff, and it's like, I think it's just like, it's kind of like a Brazilian rainbow boas and like the Peruvian rainbow boas. You know, if you like Brazilian rainbow boas are supposed to max out, like, you know, they could get up to like maximum like 7 foot. Then the Peruvians, you'd heard stories, Peruvian rainbow boas can get 9 foot. And so I'd ask people like the Kick brothers and stuff, and like all these other people, have you actually ever seen a Brazilian rainbow boa over 7 foot? And they were like a legitimate one. Like, I couldn't find anybody. And I know like the Kicks would always get like, you know, like people would give them adult Brazilians. And like, I don't think I've ever seen one over 7 foot. And I remember one dude had this really old one, and it was about 7 foot. So I think that's really the max. But then you'll have reports that are saying like up to 9 foot. Even like blood pythons, I'd hear stories of like, I remember seeing articles saying blood pythons can get up to 9 foot. And it's like, I don't think there's ever been a blood python recorded over like 7.5 foot.
Yeah.
You know, like Desiree has like one of the largest mainland blood pythons in captivity. At one point, it weighed over 55 pounds. And I think that one is like 7 foot. You know, it's gigantic. The thing's like insanely huge. It's bigger than any blood python I've seen.
Yeah.
It's big. It's fed really well. It's, you know, got age to it. And it's like imagining one another 2 foot longer. I'm like, that's like impossible. You know, this is already one, like the biggest one that anybody's witnessed. Like, nobody else can come up with a blood python bigger than this. And it's like, you're telling me that there's ones 2 foot longer than this? Yeah. That's like an extra like 30-40% larger. Probably, if you're taking into body mass and weight and it was full weight, that'd be like at least 30% larger, if not more, by body mass.
Absolutely, it would be. Blood pythons get scary big. I saw one at a show one time that was in that like 50-pound range, and I couldn't even believe what I was looking at. They had it on like top of a rack that was for sale, and so it was kind of like eye level, and it was so intimidating walking by that thing. It was like, this thing could break the glass if it wanted to.
I've seen one break a glass before. It was just like this guy. It was so funny. He is on Facebook, and he had like photos. So he had like, you know, front opening enclosure for his blood python, and he had just a picture of all the glass shattered and then the blood python he had like I think a dachshund by his dachshund's water and food bowl, but his dachshund wasn't in there, and he said I came in there, there's glass everywhere, and my blood python is on the floor by my dog's bowls, all pissed off and all defensive because it probably hurt itself flopping on the ground, and so then it's in defensive mode because it just had this like sudden bad experience of hitting the ground and feeling some physical pain from that. And so then the blood python is all disoriented, and then they're very strong.
It's like getting jettisoned from a spacecraft. That'd be unsettling.
Have you ever been herping in Arizona?
Yes, I have. I've done 2 trips. The first one was mainly for lizards, and so cornutum were the main target, Texas horn lizards, and I did find those. I didn't find any Madrean alligator lizards, which I was bummed about.
Those are cool.
I really like those a lot. I do have an alligator lizard, but it's not a Madrean. Let's see if what are they called? The not crevice spiny lizards, the yellow ones. So there's Scolopus poinsettii, which are really cool, and then ornatus maybe. Let's see, what else did I find? Oh man, I found there were these really interesting dried out like little playas where there was like it was like a floodplain or something, and so there was like grass around the edges, and these big Texas horn lizards, I mean they're like 90 grams, they're giant, they look like hamburgers running around, like big old cheeseburgers. It's so bizarre. And I was checking out around the periphery of one of these, and I went to grab one, and there was a western diamondback rattlesnake just inches away from it, curled up. And that thing was probably the meanest snake I've ever run into. That I couldn't get a good picture. It was just striking and backing up and striking and backing up, and then it finally got up into like a bush, and it was just not even worth trying to get any good photos of that. That was pretty insane. I looked for hognose snakes in the Chiricahuas, didn't find any, because they're pretty closely associated with the same habitat that the Texas horn lizards occupy there, down the flats. So we tried for those. I want to say found an old DOR, but it was like not even, doesn't even count type of thing. It was so old. What else in Arizona?
Did you get your ass beat by a coach whip?
I got my ass beat by a coach whip in Utah one time.
Okay.
I dove for it on like hard pan, like red rock type hard pan, like Steve Irwin style. And I did get it, but man, I fucked my knees up so bad. Like it was awful. Like
they're so fast. I imagine the majority of coach whips you can't even grab just because of how quick they are.
It was so not worth it. And I pulled up to this thing in the heat of the day in a vehicle. So like I had to, like, there was no chance unless I just completely committed. And yeah, I really messed myself up, but it was beautiful. It was like a bright, like orangey pink one.
Oh yeah. That's what Julian just said. The pink and black ones, and the pink ones in general are just really nice. Those Western coach whips are really gorgeous.
Dude, so the one in St. George was like orangey pink with no black on it. It was just exactly the color of like the rocks, no black at all. But I did see one of the pink and black banded ones when I was in Arizona, and it was a freshly burned area. So I saw it run off the road. I threw it in park. I ran, and I chased this thing, and it just disappeared. I don't know. It like went up a tree, and so like a burned tree. It looked like an acacia tree. It was very little, like there was no foliage or anything. And I like look around in the tree, and it was just totally gone. But yeah, I saw zebra-tailed lizards. Those are freaking awesome. I didn't see any collards, although I wanted to. And then what was the other species? I did see some Hernandezi, which are mountain shorthorn lizards. And in Arizona, they can get really, really beautiful too, like orangey pink color. They match the soil as well. I still haven't found a mountain king in Arizona, but I went in Madera Canyon, in like near Green Valley, but I was more looking for the rattlesnake species and for green rats, but I didn't get any. I got my ass kicked by the snakes, honestly. And same with West Texas. We went to West Texas in 2020 in the heat of the pandemic, and that was a miserable trip because we were trying to avoid the virus. So we didn't stay in any hotels or anything. We were just purely car camping and stuff. We brought a tent, but a tent doesn't do you any good when it's 110 in like the highest elevation you can find in the Davis Mountains. It was,
when was this? Like June, July, August?
It was July. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Herping in July, I feel like anywhere is kind of tough.
Yeah, it was awful. And then when you herp for gray banded king snakes, you're staying up all night. So you can't sleep. Like if you weren't shining cuts all night, you could actually go to sleep when it's like 85, 90 and have a normal life. But no, after like 3 days of that, we said, we'll catch COVID. We're going to the Outback Oasis. And we did. It was the best decision we ever made. It was like the nicest thing. They have this little pond out there. They've got AC. They're actually, because what's his name? Because Roy doesn't own it anymore, I'll say it. They had big ass roaches running across the floor in the rooms, but we didn't care at all. We were like, this is awesome. Like, this is so much better than what we've been dealing with.
Yeah, at first it sounded like a plug for the Outback Oasis, but then it wasn't after the
yeah. But I think that's just West Texas. Honestly, I don't think you can go anywhere in West Texas and not have that happen.
I was like, I stayed at some hotels in South Carolina, and it was like a similar experience. There's just like roaches outside everywhere, and then they're in the hotels too.
Yeah, I just don't think there's any avoiding it, no matter how nice.
Maybe if you get like 7 dust and you just line your whole floor with 7 dust all the time, then that would do it.
There you go.
have to live on 7 dust.
There you go. You know, one of the coolest things about West Texas was the mammals. We found porcupines with babies. We found raccoons with babies, foxes with babies. There was one point we were driving home from Black Gap. We had a flat tire. It was a whole big thing. Great story, actually. And there was a freaking 7x7 bull elk in the middle of the road. And there was a turkey flying behind it. It was like, what in the hell? Like, you would think that you're just hallucinating. Like, it was the weirdest thing. And you're like 15 miles from the Mexico border. It was bizarre. I didn't know there were elk there until that moment.
I didn't know either. Who are you going herping with? Is this your friends, or are you going herping with your girlfriend?
We just went, Christina and I just went that year. I mean, we were so worried about COVID that we didn't try to like meet up with anybody or anything like that. So yeah,
did she hate you during the West Texas herping trip?
Oh, dude. Yeah. Can you imagine being like, I can't get any sleep and you broke my tent and it's 100 degrees. Yeah, it was rough. But we did other good trips that year too. We went to the Sierras and found California mountain kings. We went and stayed at Paul Ciotti's house. He's a huge milk snake aficionado who lives in Reno.
Cool. California mountain kings. I always thought the Zonata are harder to find than Pyros. Is that like a misconception?
It depends where you are. You can find they're like I don't even want to say the area. I almost said it.
Don't say the area. Just say California.
Well, no, not. I was gonna say I haven't even been to this place in Arizona, but I know that it's super, super easy. But there is a place in Arizona where you can find like 20 pyros a day.
Really?
Yeah, and I haven't been there, but I want to go. I mean, obviously, but there are. I can't think of anywhere in California you can find that many Zonata in a day, but they're not hard. Like if you know where to go and you know the right conditions, they're not hard.
Sure, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because like Plains hognose, they're like a bitch to find. But if you live in the right, near the right habitat, and you know the time of the year to go there, and you know where the dense population is, it's like, all right, I can find a few in a day. Yep. Versus other people, they have a hard time finding 1 or 2 in a year.
Exactly. So that's the shitty thing about living far away. Is you're like, I just don't have the ability to get there at the exact right time. So that's the benefit of being close. Gotcha. But then there are people who live close and they don't know what we know about the conditions and stuff. And so they can go out, 10, 15 nights a year and still not find one, where it's like, if you have the expertise about the conditions, you can be in somewhere totally foreign to you and still just knock it out of the park, but you just can't be there every time it's that good. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's like my one friend. He had a hard time finding eastern milk snakes, and he lives by me. I'm like, you have to be wildly terrible at knowing where to look to not find eastern milk snakes around here. Because as long as you're like pretty decent at herping and you have a few spots, like, you can find eastern milk snakes. They're not a tough one to find. Funny thing is, Joel, eastern milk snakes, that was my first favorite species and my first species of snake I ever wanted to keep. And my first pet snake was an eastern milk snake.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So what do you think about how similar they look? So, okay, here, let me back up. So are you aware that they did DNA tests on gray banded king snakes, and they know that there's milk snake DNA in there, whether it's Salinops or Annulata specifically, I couldn't tell you, but they know for sure that there is milk snake DNA in gray banded king snakes, just as a general rule.
That's weird. Well, it makes sense because they're in the same genus. I mean, like, because, like, that's like people, it's kind of like asking the question, like, it doesn't get brought up too much, but like, what's the difference between a king snake and a milk snake? It's like, they're just different species of Lamprepeltis.
Yeah.
So it makes sense because, like, all milk snakes are one species. It's weird, though, that a Costa Rican black milk and an Eastern milk is a subspecies because they integrate at some point. Like the Andean milks, breed with the Costa Ricans, and then the Andeans breed with the Hondurans or whatever. But no, I didn't know that. It kind of makes sense. So at one point, king snakes evolved from milk snakes.
I don't think that that's what it suggests. I think more it suggests that there's integration ongoing, and even to the point that Troy Hibbets, who's a legendary herper in West Texas, he actually has an animal that is clearly 50-50 hybrid that he found in the wild, and he had it genetically tested, and it is 50-50 gray band and milk snake. So milk
snakes are in like this parts of Texas? Because like is it the Mexican milk snakes?
Yeah, so on the eastern range they have Annulata, which are Tamaulipan, which are Mexican milk snakes, and then they have Salinops, which, what are they called? Central something? I don't know. Salinops. CLAENOPS, I believe.
This is the problem with scientific names. Like when people are going to use a scientific name, it's like there's too many scientific names. It's like the common names are way easier.
Exactly. So there are two milks, but anywhere that you go looking for gray banded king snakes, you can find milks. So they're like a best second target. So anyway, where I was going with that is when I first saw eastern milk snakes, it just went straight to my mind. Like, these are clearly intergrades between Pantherophis and Triangulum. Like, they're big, their heads are like beefy. They just seem different as far as like milks go. Have you ever considered that they have like rat snake DNA floating around?
Well, like, I know, like, around here, like, I've heard of people saying, like, or they found black rat snakes hybridizing with fox snakes. They're both Pantherophytes, so it makes sense. And I've heard in California a couple different times of people finding gopher snake, California king snake hybrids. And it makes sense, like, these snakes, like, let's say, Mexican milk and a gray banded king, and they're inhabiting similar areas. They're both Lamprepeltis. They're not that hard to hybridize in captivity. If they're near each other and their pheromones get, confused, and they are compatible with each other, if they hybridize sometimes in the wild, it makes sense. Are they hybridizing, I guess, often enough where, that's going to get passed on and it's going to strengthen the bloodlines as it gets mixed in, and then after a few generations, they look gray banded king again? But I'd have to also, I'd be like, well, what does a Mexican milk gray banded king 50-50 hybrid what does it look like? Does it look more gray banded, or does it look more milk? But some of these hybrids are really interesting because they're like exactly what you would expect. They're like right in the middle.
Exactly. And that's exactly, so Troy Hibbets is the one that comes to mind, but there have been 2 or 3 that have been found over the years that were like suspected, or it was just generally accepted that that's what they were.
Gotcha.
I know his was proven with DNA testing, but yeah, just as you see like eastern milks way up in the northern range, I guess probably to the northern extent of where you find rat snakes, they're just so robust, and they act kind of more like rat snakes. Like Christina's uncle just had an eastern milk raiding like a chicken coop, and like that is not something that most milk snakes do in the range like to the south or to the east, like that's such a rat snake type behavior to be like up off the ground and like like messing around.
That does seem like it for an Eastern milk. I think if they're hybridizing up here, though, you would see it in the specific locales where there's like one. It definitely have a pretty big impact on their look. But the Eastern milks I find, they're like on hillsides, and I find them underneath boards, and they do overlap in the areas where there's like black rats, and then like the fox snake range is pretty limited in Ohio. It's close to the Great Lake, close to Lake Erie. But yeah, the Eastern milks, I always like assume that the ones around here, they get a little larger, just because I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer. I have the hypothesis is that once they're big, there's like a large, robust amount of rodents in the area. Sure. But a lot of the Eastern milks around here aren't getting that big, though. Like, I have a hard time finding them over 3 foot. I did find one, though, when I was a kid that was 42 inches. I actually measured it, and that's my biggest milk snake by far. So that's basically, it's exactly 3.5 foot, and the thing was thick, too. It is a really good-looking milk snake. But I don't really ever find them, like, over, like, 32, 34 inches. It's very rare. I finally ever found 3 or 4 over, like, 34 inches.
Okay, yeah. So, and I think your area would strike me as more like the central sort of range. Like I see them like New York, especially, and like Pennsylvania, where I'm like, that thing looks like sometimes you're like, is that a rat snake?
Their bands are wider up there. It seems like it's a little more, even more brown. The ones I find are kind of like that. The funny thing is like that Eastern milks, you know how it is with all these milks. It's actually pretty fascinating, the locales. Like, and sometimes I'm pretty good. Somebody had some red milks, and I was like, oh, those look like Missouri. And they're like, you're good. They're like, that's exactly what they are. I was like, I'm okay. I was like, I just kind of was just looking at Missouri and Kansas and Illinois locale red milks just a few months ago. So I was a little prepared to like look at it at that point. But yeah, even the milk snakes like around here, I do find some different ones. I found one that was really dark the one time. It was freaking cool. It almost looked like an anery. I thought it was, but you could see it's like iris. Really? It's kind of like orangish brown. But yeah, it looked almost like a charcoal corn snake. But it's like a really big old like male Eastern milk that had really dark banding, and the banding was more like charcoal colored and gray instead of brown. That's but yeah, cool. It's funny because like the ones in like PA and New York, they have a little different look. But they really start to change and really start to turn into like red milks and stuff like in like Indiana and Illinois, and then I start to see like that big change, like right. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think it's beyond that kind of red milk sort of range. Did you see the crazy red milk that just came out of Southern Illinois?
No, tell me.
See if you can. Oh, you can't see that at all, can you?
Put you a little closer, Mike, because right now it's glaring. It looks really red, though. Isn't it albino?
It's not albino. It's like this crazy have you ever seen Transformer annulata? Transformer Mexican milks?
I'm about to in a couple of seconds.
Man, I'm so mad that this... There we go. That shows a little bit better. This thing is so aberrant. It's like ridiculous.
I'll see. Send it to me. Oh yeah, I see what you're talking about. Kind of like the Mexican milk transformers. They're like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let me just the way that this. Dude, this is the craziest milk snake I have ever seen. Period. It is just ridiculous. JMG. Let me send that over. Man, that thing is crazy.
You know what I really like? Actually, they're one of my favorite. Are the Coastal Plains milks.
Yeah.
But those are beautiful. But dude, those things to eat.
I actually produced my first clutch this year, so I'm going.
Oh, really? I love those. That's like my favorite, man. I love Coastal Plains milks.
And mine are T positives too, so they're absolutely.
Yeah, I love those. I love. I'm gonna keep interrupting you the more you talk about it. I like those a lot.
They hatched out that big.
Yeah.
The tiniest. I mean, I've had red milks hatch out like 4 inches, also, but these things were so skinny, it's ridiculous. But out of I think I have 5. I think I have 4 out of 5 eating pinky heads now. So they actually weren't too crazy this time. this time.
So how'd you get him to eat pinky heads? Just lizard scent?
I didn't send him at all.
You didn't send them at all? They just ate them?
No. Yep, they've just been eating them.
That's pretty
And
cool.
a couple of them I did give live, like true red hots, like tiny pinkies, like pygmy pinkies, you know. But yeah, outside of that, it hasn't been too terrible. I've been getting a little bit of like they'll eat once 1 week and then not the next type of thing. But dude, one pinky head makes that thing 3 times the size. And
I'm sure. Yeah, they handle that pretty well.
Yeah, I haven't had a single regurg or anything. Oh yeah. Oh man. Here's a red milk that I had. It was a hypo that you can't.
Those are really nice. Hypo red milks. The red milks are like one of my next favorites.
Yeah, this showing you my phone doesn't do us any bit of good, does it? All right, I was looking for that milk.
It's flat. If you're getting like a major like glare off.
Yeah.
When you show it.
Yeah, it doesn't do us any good. Bummer. Well, like I say, next time we'll be prepared with some images. And is there a way to do that on the podcast to do like a screen sharing thing or something?
There is. I don't know how to do that one though. I'd have to like click around.
That'd be sick though, huh? To put it up in the corner and be like, boom, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, you can do it. I don't want to start messing with it now, but I think you hit this plus symbol and there's certain things you could do. I can ask MJ how he does that.
Yeah, for sure. That would be really cool. Because that's especially when we start getting into the depths of Colubrid discussion. It's like, oh, here's an Applegate, here's an Applemel, here's a Ghost. It's too hard to run and get them all. And
it'd be handy to have an extra tab for Google, and we could just put in a search for the stuff
For
we're
real.
looking for and bring it up, especially like the milk snake locales. How often are you using iNaturalist to just look at stuff? Like when I use iNaturalist, I'm really never looking for herping spots. Sometimes I am, especially if I'm looking for like black rats in my area or somewhere quick. And I'm kind of curious, hey, where are these black rat sightings? The one thing though is iNaturalist is a bit tough. And what I mean by that is like a lot of times the most sightings for a species are just where people are the most often because they're more likely to come across stuff. So usually it's these
like
parks that have high,
people.
they have high foot traffic. So that's why there's more stuff reported. Or Pale Scales that said iNaturalist is awful. iNaturalist is pretty cool though. I like how you can find locality stuff documented and published there. But there is a concern of like, because I've been able to find secret herping spots using it. Now I've never been to them, but I know exactly. I'm like, all right, if I want to find this, I can go there.
Right. Yeah. Good question. I use it. I honestly don't use it that much. Like I use it to post things. I honestly wish that they would change the obscure feature because I think it's like 5 kilometers or something like that. So like 5 square kilometers is right
Easy.
there. You know what I mean? Especially if you're in like a riparian or canyon environment, it's pretty like rattlesnakes, I think, stand to do the least good with it because den sites are going to be really easy to locate, even if you obscure the information. Like it's pretty easy to say, okay, this one was within this long. You just go there, look around, and be like, okay, where's the cliff face or the rocks or So I don't like it for Crotalus especially, but for a lot of species, I don't think it's all that big of a deal. Like specifically, there's one place in Utah where somebody put the exact location on all of their ringneck finds, and it's been there for 5 years, I think, and nobody that I know, and I know a lot of people who have gone back and looked, have even seen one there.
Oh,
and
really?
got 3 regal ringnecks in one day. So it was just like conditions, so that makes me kind of feel better about it. Like, well, maybe it's not gonna, it's just kind of.
Who has the time? It's gonna be like some kid in their 20s that like doesn't like have much to do because like you could show me like this spot, and if it's like a few states over, I'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna go there one day, and then it's gonna happen 5 years later. Like, hey Jeff, have you been to that spot yet? I'm like, actually, I haven't even fucking been out there, even thought about it. I don't have the time. I'll do it next year. And I'll keep saying that until I die and I never go there.
Yep, exactly. I had the same exact thought. I was thinking about this podcast tonight, and I was thinking about this certain locale of Utah milks and what effect that might have if I even said the words, even though everybody knows about it. I'm like, what are the chances that people from across the country are ever going to take the time? You know,
Oh
like,
yeah, and I was herping there with you looking for them, and you got to flip like the stones for like the entire day, and you got to go to this exact spot. You got to rent an SUV, probably if you're traveling that far, or driving your own vehicle. You got to drive up that stone hill or like the side road we drove up. The rocks we were driving over like this big. The SUV was bouncing around. It's like, and you might find one. You're gonna find one.
Yeah, very best case. Yeah. It's, I don't know. So a lot of people kind of overblow like the damage, I think, that it does, but it depends on the location. Like Snake Road, for instance. Like if nobody knew about that, you know, and you started posting stuff, it's kind of like centrally located enough. I mean, obviously people go on pilgrimages there every year from all across the country. So like if that place hadn't already been known, sure, I would prefer that somebody didn't put that on INAT so that everybody now knows to go there.
Yeah, some spots I can see getting messed up. The one thing that's cool about iNaturalist is like sometimes unexpected stuff you find. Like I was looking, I was curious, so I put in like, you know, horned lizards, and I found out there's an invasive population that's doing really well in South Carolina, and it makes sense. Yeah, because people let them go there and they eat ants, and so the temperatures are good. It's sandy, like loamy and you know, environment. It's sandy soil. They're finding rocks and other cover, and then they have an unlimited food source because there's different types of species of ants. There's probably fire ants galore out there, and they eat them. And so yeah, you can find horned lizards in near I think it's near Hilton Head, if I remember.
Are these desert horned lizards?
I think they're desert horned lizards. Whichever ones are commonly kept and like sold in captivity, you know, people go, it's got to be those. You know what I mean? Because somebody bought them as pets and let them go there.
Really? That's really interesting to me because I actually was the predominant. I don't even know anybody else really, other than a guy in Germany who was breeding platyrhinos, the desert horned lizards, in captivity. So I think I got mine to like F3. I had 3 generations or 3.5 generations captive bred. Like the mom was 3, the babies were 4th, and I bred them back. I sold those. I sold that project to a guy in South Carolina. So.
Oh really? Did he live near Hilton Head?
I don't know, to be honest. I'd have to. I've never even heard of Hilton Head. I've been to South Carolina. I've never heard of that.
I think it was near Hilton Head. I'm gonna look right now.
That's it. Let me put this Cape Cod back. He's not real happy being handled this much.
All right, everybody, we're gonna look up horned lizards. We're gonna see where they live in South Carolina. If I can even type without creating a bazillion typos.
That is a hell of a good example of the weird things you learn on iNaturalist, though. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
That is so bizarre. But yeah, wow. How interesting. Because I want to say the guy that I sold that project to had some sort of hardship, like a health issue or something. It kind of makes me wonder, like, is that the next best option? Just let him.
He's really sick, and he's just in one of those moods, and he's like, I'm gonna return you back to the earth. And now they're doing. If that's what happened, they're doing well because they're established.
That is so crazy. Actually, I used to get a bunch of my ants from a guy in Michigan. So I used to breed Texas horned lizards.
This says they're Texas horned lizards.
Okay.
And they're established outside of Charleston or on Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms, 2 different areas, and Edisto Beach. And there's multiple sightings. You can see it. That's on one of the islands. There's not just one. There's a bunch of them.
Wow. There's none on Kiowa Island?
What island?
Kiowa. Because that's right by Charleston also.
Let me see. Kiowa Island, there isn't any, but they maybe nobody's been there looking for them. Maybe they are there. So it's been pretty close. Here's Kiowa Island right here. I know you can't really see, but man, it's like barely of like Sullivan's Island and Isle of Palms is like right next over there, and they're over there.
They're probably there then. That's crazy. Oh, well, that's cool. I'm glad to know that's a different species.
Yeah, it's Texas horned lizards, and they're putting a herding on and here's some ones that are like they're like got fucked up. They're I don't know if they're obscured, but they put them out in the ocean for some reason. So there's more.
Yeah.
But
They're
those could
obscured.
be.
That's
Yeah, they're
funny.
obscured. Like I don't know why it is an invasive species in that area. They don't need to be obscured. But anyway,
Really though.
yeah. So they're all over down there, and they're probably screwing up the fire ants. Good, and the fire ants aren't even supposed to be there. So that's good.
Maybe. I hope, because that's the thing that's killing cornutum in Texas is fire ants. So the Dallas
Yeah.
Zoo has a big captive breeding program going on because of the fire ants, because they've been taking out the harvester ants, which they're supposed to eat, and they take out the harvester ants. So yeah, I'd love to see like a case study on what that's all about, what they are eating, and if they are fire ants. I mean, yeah, if they're taking out invasive insects, then
Oh, they wouldn't like that. The conservationists would hate that. An invasive species, like having some good. That's a reptile. We got a question here. If you could go herping anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
Dude, that just showed up on my StreamYard thing. Funny.
Because I clicked it.
Anywhere in the world. Oh, facts, fam. Dude, are you getting a replay thing, like a relay deal going on?
No.
Like my video's weird? Okay. I would go back to Australia. So I went to Australia when I was in 5th grade. I did herp there. We found goannas. I was thinking about this earlier. I need to go back and figure out what species of monitor lizards they are. The guy that we were with just calls them all goannas. But it was huge. It was like 5 foot long and sprayed up this huge tree. Australia is definitely the goat herping location in the world for sure. I actually saved up all the money to go back, and I'm just waiting on the right time. I got 4 young kids, and because of the school year and how everything works, you really want to go in our winter or like their summer-ish, maybe like late spring type of deal. So I'm kind of just biding my time to Australia for sure.
All right, Julianne saying she's getting an echo. I can hear what you're talking about now. I'm not hearing it much on yours, but I can hear a little bit of echo back in your background. It sounds like it's annoying.
Yeah, it's throwing me off. Is there anything we can do about it? Should I leave and come back in type of deal? Or?
Hold on. I'm going to try something.
Okay.
I'm going to edit your mic settings. I'm going to reduce mic background noise. And now let's see how this is.
That seems like that should work.
Is it better?
It seems a little better. Maybe.
Right.
What do you guys think? Does anybody have an opinion? Dude, actually, Egypt would be sick too. I had this guy message me out of Egypt, and he sent me all these pictures of totes filled with reptiles. He's like, "Do you want any of this stuff?" And I clicked through the pictures. There was some amazing stuff in there that I was like, "Wow, I would love to go to Egypt." We actually watched. Christina and I just watched a video on this guy in Morocco who goes through and rescues reptiles from like old wells. Like some of them are like ink. But all these reptiles and amphibians fall down into these wells, and they rescued something like, I don't know, a couple of hundred animals from these wells. It was really cool. So Middle East would actually be super cool too. But yeah, feedback deal is still terrible. Do you want me to leave and come back in?
Yeah, if you can.
If I can.
Try it. I don't like if you can confidently leave and come back in.
I think I can. Right. Yeah, there's a button. I'll try it.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Joel's gonna exit. And now it's just gonna be me. I was gonna ask him what species he wants to, or what species you think would be the coolest to find in Egypt. So I don't know what's like really in Egypt. I know you have Euromastic, and there's some cobra species there. And I don't really know much else. I mean, I know there's going to be some Egyptian tortoises. Those would be cool. That's like one of the coolest tortoises. That's actually Crystal's favorite tortoise are Egyptian tortoises because they're so small. All right, looks like Joel's entering the studio, and so I gotta bring him in here. And there we are.
Okay. Hopefully that's better.
All right, what do you want to find in Egypt? What's so cool to find in Egypt? Uromastyx, Egyptian tortoises. Like, what else? What are some other cool species you can find there?
Man, you're putting me on the spot. The geckos are crazy. There's so many. Like, they've got geckos that are kind of like Nephrurus and stuff like that in Australia. Like, they're kind of. They don't have like sticky pads. They have claws and stuff. They almost look diurnal. They're kind of like banded geckos, Coleonyx, and that type of thing. Just a million different variations of those. But yeah, dude, Uromastyx. That is, I feel terrible that I never got into Uromastyx. That's when I was breeding collared lizards and horned lizards and stuff. Uromastyx were way up on the list.
Yeah, I thought that because I know you said that actually early on that you were into lizards first, and I kind of thought we were talking one time, and then that's why I thought like one of your first species of lizards you worked with was collared lizards.
Yep, absolutely. Can anybody in the comments confirm whether you're getting this terrible echo? Because
I can hear it a bit. It's not really bothering me, but it's the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how to. Let me see if I can. Settings maybe. Yeah. So I got into collared lizards originally as a kid. I was so interested in them because my dad went on a fishing trip in the San Juan River, which is like around Four Corners, and he came back and he had some photos and mostly just stories, but he did have some photos of yellow-headed collared lizards, and some of the leopard lizards down there were just bright yellow. I just remember being enamored with those. We were at my memory of this is so clear. We were at an Italian restaurant, and they had these light sconces on the wall with a sconce, and he was like, they were like that color. They were that bright yellow. And I just remember thinking that was just so cool. And then when the pictures got developed 6 months later or whatever, and actually saw these things, I was like, I am dying to keep something like that. So when I got into reptiles in 2012 or whatever, and I saw what was available, because it was exponentially more than when I had looked in books, I guess. I don't know, there was no internet when I was a kid, but I was amazed. And so, yeah, I got Eastern colors, aqua flames, which are like in Oklahoma, Texas locale. I got the yellowheads from Colorado, Utah area. And then I got into all the horned lizards. The Mexican giant horned lizards are by far the coolest. They're huge. Like, they can get 120 grams. They're the largest horned lizard species in the world. They're amazing.
What would you feed those guys?
Ants also, mostly.
Where would you get the ants from? Did you have like ant colonies? No,
I always wanted to try to find a. Well, I did actually. I dug up a bunch of harvester ant colonies trying to find a queen, and I never could. It's called antsalive.com. There's a guy around. It's spelled hurricane, and I call it hurricane, but if you ask anyone in Utah, it's called Hurricane, Utah. And he goes out and sucks them up with a little vacuum of some sort and sends them out. They're like $30 per 1,000. So they were.
Oh, that's not bad. That's like, I mean, that's like pretty decent.
Yeah, but they were short-lived, so you'd have to order them. Like, I mean, they die like within 5 days. So
what the fuck?
Yeah. So,
is any of this stuff? Am I making it worse? I keep messing with the mic settings.
I need to hear from somebody in the comments. I don't know. It's been the same for me. Did everybody leave at this point? Because it's pretty bad.
No, we got like 22 people sitting here listening to us bullshit.
Somebody needs to verify how bad it is.
It's not that bad. I think most people aren't really hearing much. I think it's just you're getting the brunt of it.
Okay, I just need to ignore it. All right, if that's the case. Yeah, Mexican giant horned lizards were by far my favorite. I was never able to reproduce them. I tried a couple years. I did red Texas horned lizards, and then Taurus horned lizards. Have you ever seen the bull horned lizards from southern Mexico? They have these huge, like, bull horns that go back like this. They're so sick.
I haven't seen those.
They're amazing. I sold those. They were kind of finicky for me. Like I raised them up like half of the way. They were so expensive at the time. I think they were like $2,000 a piece, and at that time that was just ridiculous for me. So I was, yeah, they were like a couple. They would regurge, and then they would do better, and then so I just got them doing well, and then I moved them out as soon as they were healthy. I was like, I'm not messing with them anymore. So I sold them to this guy in Oregon, and he did well with them. I don't know if he ever reproduced them, but they reached adulthood, and they're super cool. They're live bearers too. So, I mean, they have these huge like bull horns back like this, and that's like almost half their body is like a giant skull, and then they have this little teeny body and these itty bitty legs. They're so cool. Yeah, horn lizards are freaking awesome. Oh, I had some. What do you call them? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. Central Mexico. I had some that I imported from Europe, and they got confiscated. And I don't ever know what happened to them. I paid like $2,000 for these things, and they took them at the border. I think it was actually in North Carolina where they came in, and yeah, they were like, nope, these aren't allowed to. And we're like, they're captive bred. The breeder in Germany sent all the provenance and stuff of when they left the country in Mexico, and yeah, they just.
What species was that?
I'm blanking right now. What? It's been so long. They are. I want to. It starts with an O, I think. Phrynosoma orbiculare.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
They're really cool too, and they're big also. They're from like the same mountain ranges as like Nuevo Leon king snakes and stuff. Phrynosoma. So that was kind of a goal for a long time, was to keep all of the Phrynosomas.
A dun spiny tail lizard?
No.
All right, yeah, it didn't look like that. I figured I was wrong.
This is it, Phrynosoma orbiculare.
Oh.
So they look like a lot of other horn lizards, but they're bigger. Let's see. And they get really, really cool coloration. That's an osseo. Oh no, that's an orbiculare. Look how big that guy is.
That is very big. It fills out this guy's hand. It looks like a giant. What's something plump that fills up your hand? Like a half an animal? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I really like the body fringe they have on the side. That reminds me of the coastal horn lizards that they have in California. They're a lot like those. If you've ever seen the coastal, or they not coastal, they're just called coast horn lizards.
I haven't seen those. What about like Australian thorny devils?
I would love to keep one. That's the sort of situation that you have to have an ant colony.
Yeah, I was gonna say they eat ants too, don't they? Exclusively.
Oh, yeah.
They had them at this Japan Expo I was at. They had 2 of them on display. This was like 10 years ago. And unfortunately, like everybody went over and looked at them except for me. I kept saying I was going to, but I was always busy. And then I forgot. And then the show was over and then I couldn't look at them.
Oh, man. That's terrible. There's a guy on YouTube in Australia. I'll have to look it up. But he keeps everything like super naturalistically. Like he's got the coolest setup where he has like his house is against like a yard area where he has like shades that come down for like certain species. His freaking dining room table has knobtail geckos and stuff like down in it. Like there's glass over it, and you can literally look down at the knobtail geckos. He's got an ant colony with like glass right here, so you can actually watch the ant colony walk along and grow and stuff. It's like a really big attraction. That's what I'm looking for. Attraction where he like super, and he has 20.
I think that's cool because I feel like you could like breed like ant-eating species of like lizards, because ant farms is actually a pretty cool hobby. And there's been some like reptile shows I've been going to where people have different ant species colonies that you can start. They have like the harvester ants, they have those like the honeypot ants, and they have a few other types. And you can buy the ants, and you can start your own ant colony. And then I guess if you had like multiple giant ant colonies going, you could feed your
yeah, that's a really cool part of animal keeping, I guess we'll call it. Yeah, I don't think that harvester ants are very easy to keep going, from what I know. But this is years ago. Maybe there's been some advancements. But yeah, that would be so cool. Those, what do you call them? They're from Thailand. Flying dragons that have like the wings on the side. You know?
Yeah, those guys.
Those are ant-eating species also. That's why you don't see them in captivity. Or you shouldn't. And so that would be another one that would be really cool. They're called Draco lizards.
It makes sense because I mean, like it's kind of like like Europlatus eat a lot of snails. There's actually a lot of lizard species that eat snails because snails are so prevalent in like a lot of ecosystems. Same with like ants. Ants are like friggin' everywhere. Ants are like in almost every climate except for like really, really cold climates. They can be a desert, they can be in montane, jungle, everything. And there's so many ants, and I forget how many. Like I read this one thing. There's like trillions of ants in the world. Like I don't know how many trillions, but yeah, it makes sense that a lot of these species are going to be, anteaters, or at least eating ants. Actually, I seen an American toad one time zapping up a bunch of flying ants outside my door. And so, yeah, a lot of stuff eats ants. And then there's these specialized anteaters. And it's like those Ethiopian fat-tailed geckos, the Hemidiconyx, the tailor eye. Those are mostly anteaters too, and that's why I think maybe they might be termite eaters. Actually, I might be confused on that one. Maybe they eat more termites, but that's another one. There's specialized termite eaters and then anteaters.
Mm-hmm. I mean, same. They're so they're so ubiquitous in every habitat. Yeah, it makes sense that they're species that are specialized to capitalize on the caloric opportunities.
Yep. Yeah, because like you go everywhere. There's like termite mounds that are utilized. Australia, Africa. Actually, African fat-tailed geckos. The one spot where they kept finding them was near termite mounds, and there's like little burrows on the edges of termite mounds. They were finding fat-tailed geckos.
Really, that's super interesting.
I don't think they always live in termite mounds, and I think the fat-tails are using it more for habitat. They'll eat termites, I'm sure, but the fat-tailed geckos eat like everything.
If in that situation, you don't think that they're mainly predating on termites?
No, African fat-tailed geckos. I mean, it's possible. I'd imagine it'd be like that toad I found that was eating all those flying ants. They were there, and so there's a food source that'll keep eating them. But that's not there. So, like, if they're able to eat a bunch of those termites, and I'm sure they'll sit there and eat them for as long as they can. But then they'll move on, and they'll eat other stuff. But yeah, they might even like that habitat because maybe they are predating mainly on termites because they're available.
Right.
But I know they'll eat anything, that's, like an
invertebrate.
Yeah.
Wiggles.
Yeah, but small wiggles, yeah. They're mostly invertebrates, but yeah, I mean, come across a small lizard or anything, they're going to eat that too.
True. Oh, the rat snake species that I forgot that I work with is Barron's racers.
Oh, you do work? Yeah, I thought somebody said something about a Barron's racer.
Yeah, if you want to call them a rat snake species, I do mess with the bears.
I know Barron's racers were considered a rat.
I consider them a rat snake. I don't know about. I don't think science does, but they're
ratty enough for you.
Yeah, they're rat snake-ish enough. Yeah, they're super cool, man. The demand for Barron's racers is insane right now. I didn't even post pictures of my females on eggs because I don't want to hear from all these people from China 5 times a day. It's crazy. Did I tell you that the blue ones were selling for $3,500 in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I heard the blue ones are very popular, and yeah, when I've talked to some people that are shipping stuff overseas, the blue ones are the hot items.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, the blue ones are freaking awesome, but
yeah,
crazy. They were, I think I paid 800 a piece. Actually, no, I think I might have paid 800 for my pair when I got them in 2013. No, 2015. So that's pretty crazy. I was telling my buddy, if anybody could just amass a big amount of Blue Barons racers and breed those successfully, you could actually do it as a full-time job with like 10 pairs or like 5.10 for like the next 10 years easily.
Yeah, I was gonna say for now.
yeah. No, it won't go forever. Until theirs hit maturity, there's a big window of time that, and Barons are hard. Like, I know a guy in Vegas who's like kind of the Barons guy, and he hasn't produced any for the last few years.
Well, he doesn't sound like the Barons guy anymore. Are they tough? Are they kind of inconsistent?
I guess. I mean, I think he moved recently. I don't think he lived in Vegas always, but I think that's part of it, is that he now lives in a place that's way too warm. But my blue one never lays all good eggs. He's always laid half and half. But my green one this year, he laid 19.
This is for Cat. Cat kept asking for Mai Tais. I posted this in the Discord, Cat. This is the Super Arctic Anaconda Mai Tai. There's your Mai Tai. It's a very nice one.
How come we can see things on your phone?
I don't know. I think it's your phone's brightness or something. For some reason, stuff's been showing up pretty good on my phone.
Yeah. That's sick.
Yeah, it's not bad. It could also be my camera on this iPad, but your audio is way better than mine. This iPad audio is not the best.
Dude, ever since you and I talked when we were camping looking for milks, I've been eating my words about adding Arctic and Super Arctic to these combos. It's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing. You need an Arctic.
I have Arctic.
Oh.
I made an Arctic Conda double het sunburst, or he's at least het sable.
Okay.
He's badass. He's like green.
Now you need to add it into your storm clouds and your Mai Tais.
Yeah. No, I was just seeing pictures of stuff that I was like, I don't know how much it's adding, but ever since you and I talked, I've been paying more attention to it, and it's fucking awesome.
It's a good one. Super Arctic enhances everything. You know, even leucistics, Super Arctic leucistics, you'd think it wouldn't do much. But, it gives them all black eyes, but it makes their scales more clear, and they get like calico white speckling on their throat.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty neat looking. There's one. I'll send it to you.
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah, because you know the Super Arctic sometimes have like that purple translucent throat. It shows up in the leucistics because the leucistics, it changes their iridophore structure, so you can see that makes them more transparent. So the Super Arctic Lucies are actually pretty neat. And the Super Arctic, I mean, they look good in everything. The Super Arctic Sables are badass. Super Arctic everything's good.
Damn, that's sweet. I haven't seen. I wouldn't have even thought to do Super Arctic or really anything into leucistic.
Yeah, most people do albino. There's a few other people, but then the Solar Flare Slithers. This guy, he definitely knows you, Joel, because he's been talking. He's really excited about your projects. He's brought up that you have Baird's rats. That's another uncommon one. You don't see Baird's rats very often in captivity. How many pairs of Baird's rats do you have?
I have one.
I kind of thought maybe one pair.
But they're hypo, so they're fucking awesome. My Bairds.
I didn't know there was even hypo Bairds.
Are ridiculous. I'll show you the females. They are ridiculous.
Hypo Baird's rat snake. Oh, that's pretty nice looking.
She's in shed, of course.
No problem. I got my phone here. Although the pictures are like not coming in clear.
So I told you I'd show you the female because I know I need to scope this male. He's got a little bit of stuck shed. Yeah. That's babies. Dude, yeah, these don't.
They're like pink and orange. They're like pinky orange.
Yeah. This isn't doing any justice at all showing them in this. in this scenario at all. They're pink and orange base color, and then each single scale looks like it's been colored with that Sharpie that's like silver, you know, like that like graffiti silver highlighter.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, these are really pretty. They're pretty interesting.
And they're a West before. This is the male. Yeah, dude, this just... Yeah, there you go. That's what they really look like. I'm going to put these away. They're not...
Huh. Yeah, these look pretty hot, actually. Yeah, and beard rats are so, like, they're just so uncommon. Like, if you go to a reptile show and there's beard rats, there's probably, like...
Oh, I'd be so surprised to see one at a reptile expo.
Yeah, I don't think I think I've only ever seen beard rats at shows, like maybe like 1 or 2 times ever. Oh, somebody had a greenish rat snake at Anaheim. That was weird. I think it's the only time I've ever seen a green rat snake. You know, Arizona green rat. I've never seen one at a show. I don't think ever before than that.
So a greenish rat and a green rat, 2 different things.
Yeah, the green rat, Arizona green rat. Yeah, the greenish rat is the yellow black rat intergrade in the Carolinas. That's not that impressive.
Yeah, dude, Centicolas are hard, man. I've had Centicolas. Those are the Arizona green rats.
Okay, I was about to ask, as I figured that's what you're talking about. I didn't know their species name.
They're hard. They are really, really sensitive to higher temperatures, which is interesting.
And they're from Arizona.
Yeah.
It's because they live in the rocks all the time, so they're never really being out exposed to the heat.
Yep. They live way underground most of the time, which is funny because they're bright green. But yeah, so I talked to a buddy who's pretty successful with them in Utah, and I asked him what the deal is, because I think I had 0.1, and they just crashed slowly. They just regurged, you know, like, I mean, I had them for a couple of years, but I was keeping them at regular Colubrid-ish temperatures, like maybe an 85-degree hotspot, down to like 77 maybe was the lowest they could go. And he's like, I keep them in my unfinished basement where it's like 55 in the summer, and then I give them a hotspot of like 65, 70. And
that worked?
Where they do well. Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, I wouldn't have guessed that. See, I would have kept them warm, and then they would have been probably crashing, and I would have been like, what the fuck's wrong with these things?
Yep. So I've heard that across the board, too, that people just don't do very well with them. And I was just trying to figure out what the reasoning was, and I got 99% of this because they should be kept way hotter.
You should keep them with your rubber boas, then.
Pretty much. Yep. I can show a rubber bow if people want to see that.
Yeah, I didn't know you had rubber bows are really cool.
I just caught a male, actually, because I have 2 females. And I caught it exactly 1.4 miles from my house. That's pretty cool.
I'll post a picture of a purple people eater once this thing is over. I have one hatching out.
Please do, but okay. I have seen that, but that's a bad aspect.
Oh, Joel sent it to me on Instagram. This is that red milk, that aberrant red milk.
Yes, please show that.
That's weird. It's weirder than I expected. It's like blurred. It looks like an actual mutation.
I think it is.
I think that is too, because that's just not an anomaly. That's weird.
And I'm pretty good friends with the guy who caught that, so yay.
Oh, just send it over.
Yep. So this is a little baby from 2022. Rubber boa.
Nice.
And in my experience, in the Intermountain West, if you collect them, they do terribly unless you catch them as fresh babies.
Really? So you gotta get as fresh babies, so they gotta be just established them.
Yep. They will eat if you catch adults, but they just regurge. They just don't do well. So the coastal ones do well from like Oregon and California, just kind of across the board. But if anybody is in the Intermountain West, wanting to work with these guys, I think there's nothing wrong with it. Just try to catch really, really small ones. This girl was like, I don't know, 6 inches long, and like pink. They're like, they literally look like worms in the movies. They're not this color at all. They're like peach, pinkish color. Super cool.
Very cool.
Not a colubrid though.
Right. Yeah, you breed some ball pythons too.
I do breed some ball pythons, but we don't talk about that around the colubrid friends. Yeah, we keep that close to the chest. So what's the difference between a colubrid and a colubroid when it comes to Western hognose snakes? Is that because of, so I heard someone using the distinction of colubroid when it comes to hognose snakes versus colubrid. What makes them a colubroid?
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, okay.
There's like, I mean, taxonomies, like, I can't remember. There's I don't know how to pronounce it. It starts with a D. There's another classification that heterodon fit into. If you go between the genus and the actual, like, family they're in. I guess it's a subfamily order, but I don't. It's not that. I think somebody was just probably making a joke.
Oh, okay. Because
that's what I'm guessing. I'd have to say, was it said in the chat here?
No, this was something. I don't know. It was on another podcast, but false water cobras are colubroid, no?
Oh, okay. So you're talking about another classification of colubrids that are kind of like. I'll have to find it.
Yeah, I was listening to colubrid and colubroid radio, and I've never really thought about what the difference is or known what the difference is, because we all just talk about them as colubrids. But somebody said something about Western hognose being a colubroid.
Well, it'd be a subfamily, so it wouldn't necessarily, probably not. I mean, that's my one. I'm not really strong on taxonomy, especially because, they change it around a lot, and taxonomy isn't insanely important to me.
Right.
To understand the species, as long as I know genuses and species of subspecies. And then, it's kind of like leopard geckos. Leopard geckos are Eubuliferidae, and it's, they're in their own subfamily of eyelid geckos. Mm-hmm. And then, Western hognose / plains hognose, all the heterodon, they're probably reclassified, but there's another name for it. Because colubrids encompass 3,000 plus species, and so it's just another distinction between hey, these are colubrids, and this is a disjunct colubrid, a category here. But I'm not a taxonomy expert.
I was wondering
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was wondering if it's the rear fanged deal that might be the distinction.
Maybe, but I mean, there's so many things that are technically like garter snakes aren't necessarily rear fang, but they have enlarged maxillary teeth and they have a venom gland. Ringneck snakes. We talk about night snakes, like pine wood snakes. There's so many colubrids that have modified, venom glands and either rear fangs or enlarged rear teeth. And so, I do think it might be something to do with that. I'd like to find it. I'll try to find it right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just curious because I was if anybody, because I was listening to your podcast last week with Reptiles, and you were talking about a lot of pretty deep tracks type paper with Western hognose snakes and little known facts. So
the little known facts ontogenic, dietary shift in the wild. A lot of species have that though. Eastern milk snakes around here eat, you're talking about them eating lizards and going to mice. Certain Lampropeltis. Eastern milk snakes around here, they eat as babies all small snakes, and they'll eat ringneck snakes. They'll eat decay snakes, garter snakes, any smaller snake. And then once they hit to like large juvenile subadult size, they switch to mostly rodents.
That's right. Shit, sorry, dude. I wish I had the ability to show photos on here because a buddy of mine just threw Utah milk snake eating a mouse in the middle of the road.
Really? That's pretty
off mouse. Yeah. And he was able to take pictures of the entire event. I had to plug my video in here. Yeah. I don't want to steal his shine if he wants to share it somewhere else. But yeah, if I have the ability to show the picture, it's pretty amazing. Utah milks are extremely hard to get feeding on rodents, so just to see that one was eating a rodent rather than a lizard is surprising.
Right. Yeah. Like, we know they're all opportunistic, but even out where they're from, it's like lizards are available. You know, it makes sense that you're eating them.
And half the rodents that you see are kangaroo rats, which are big enough to take on even the biggest milk snake, as far as Utah goes. So yeah, if you guys don't know about rubber boas, they have a tendency to wrap themselves around the handler. So if I like put it on my wrist, it'll just kind of settle there and kind of become a little bracelet. So they're really cool for handling for kids, and especially people who are afraid of snakes or very unassuming. They might as well be a colubrid. Let's just. But it's actually cooler if they're not.
All right, it was on Herp Mapper, but now I'm not finding it because they're just underneath Colubrid, and I knew there was a disjunct thing under taxonomy that I remembered before, and now I'm not finding it.
Okay.
So now I got it. Now I'm curious, so now I want to look for it. But I've never thought of Heterodon as anything other than a Colubrid. They are a rear fang Colubrid, but
Right. Still. So now I can. Carol Wheat, I think she's from Utah. Well, I want to say, what is it called? Way up north. I saw a horse running across the road where they're from. They're actually hognose breeders, so it makes sense that they're watching you. Tremonton finally came to me. We actually drove up from an AJR concert with our kids from Salt Lake City to Sun Valley, Idaho, straight through that area. And I saw a horn lizard going across the road in crazy heat. It was 100 degrees. Pretty wild.
Okay, see, the Heterodon, they're in the Colubrid family, and then I've seen it. I'm trying to find out if there's a subfamily. It says Heterodontid. Today.
Oh, okay.
But it's kind of just a classification of just that genus. So I don't think that's really it sounds like an overanalyzation of taxonomy. You know what I mean? So they're basically a Colubrid. And I'm sure, taxonomy is pretty complicated. And it's kind of there's probably, of course, species that are more closely related to Heterodon that are Colubrids and other Colubrids. But how they classify that stuff, with DNA testing, I don't know. And I haven't seen any new reports with that or anything like that. So it's probably something new that Colubrid and taxonomy people that are more into the academic side that are starting to reclassify stuff. So they probably have two now. Colubrid's a large family, so it would have to be they're classifying into there's two families of Colubrid now. Or there's a subfamily that they were referring to that isn't widely recognized. So yeah, as far as I know, I never heard of anything like that. But I had that's because on Herp Mapper, I remember they had this other classification for the taxonomy that I thought was weird, and that's all it was is Heterodontinae, which is just their genus name with Danae added into it.
Exactly.
It's kind of like Eublephaeridae and Eublepharis. Although, Eublepharis is really not like that because Eublephaeridae is describing all eyelid geckos, and then Eublepharis is the, leopard gecko. The genus, of the leopard gecko species. And then there's also other Eublephaeridae that aren't Eublepharis, like the Coleonyx and the fat tail geckos would be another one, but their genus is different. So
Okay.
that's I'm not taxonomy is not my strong point, which I don't mind at all because they're constantly changing it anyway.
Yep.
So I don't really, I'm definitely interested in it though, and the classification. I mean, there's been weird classifications though, like with Heterodon, there used to be Gloidai, and Gloidai never even existed. It was basically somebody that, this is my interpretation, just wanted to put their name on something because there was no reason why Gloidai should have ever been classified as a subspecies. It was just a locale variant, and it wasn't even a precise locale. It was just this variation of Heterodon that could really be found anywhere. And there were some, like there is one area that kind of matched the Gloidai description that are in isolated population in Missouri, and like that's it.
Oh, okay. I associated that more with like Oklahoma and Texas. So that's
yes, and actually that's the thing. The Gloidai, locale or specific look used to be described more as ones from like Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, and they had this particular look, this big, wider, blotchy look. And Richard Evans would have ones that he called Gloidai, and obviously he wasn't going. It's not obvious, but those were from Lubbock County. But I did see one. It's on iNaturalist. You can actually find it in Oklahoma. It's a far eastern Oklahoma Heterodon nascus that has that really old school, weird Gloidai look. But really, what it is just this very unusual, just locale type look. And it might not even be a locale type. It's just maybe a variant because you could find some that look like Gloidai in this area. Then there's other ones in the area that don't look like that. But the ones in Missouri are pretty consistent. But it's such a small gene pool. And this one guy is talking to me at the Reptile Talks if I thought it was an actual subspecies. And I'm like, no. And he goes, well, he thinks it is. I'm like, well, for one, it's completely, isolated from the others. So there is no integrating. So it actually has to be classified as a different species. So it wouldn't be a subspecies. Right. But they're so close. And I don't see there's no scale count difference. They're relatively the same. Really, it's just, a locale phenotype. It's like the ones in Illinois are lighter colored, but we're not going to call them a subspecies just because they're lighter colored than their northern darker counterparts. But then the guy was like, well, what about you think about this? The face on this one looks a little different. I'm like, actually, that one's face, the structure does look different. The rostral scale is different. I was like, but, all the other ones I've seen in the past have very typical, structural features. I was like, that one, it's probably because this locale is so small, they're becoming too inbred. Because the Missouri population is very tiny. It's very tiny. And there's all around, it's all cornfields. So they might have to reintroduce new bloodlines to keep that tiny little, population going, because the Nassicus in Missouri, that spot, man, is like the size of like 6 or 8 football fields. Like that's it. That's like it might be a little larger than that, but not much. It's like really small. You could walk the whole thing probably like pretty good in a day.
Jeez, that's insane. Well, that's why I always say that locality is king. Like over species, subspecies, taxonomy names, locality is always the most important thing. Or even if it's general.
All right, Ellie just answered this because I've never heard this term before ever until today. I've always heard of Colubrid. So Colubroid is definitely new to me. Is the group comprising 4 families? Colubrid, one of the 4 families. So Heterodon would be in Colubrid, but why even mention Heterodon being a Colubroid if it's like that would be redundant because that's going one step above. So if they're saying that, I would imagine it'd have to be a subfamily because if you're getting closer and trying to analyze or say something about Heterodon, why expand further and take a step back further from the family name Colubrid? Right. So Colubroid is encompassing families. Colubrid being the biggest family of snakes. Well, what is the other ones? Oh, she put the study in the Discord. That's very cool, Ellie.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's what I want to read up on now because I don't know anything about this shit. Colubroid.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I wondered about that.
I thought it was a joke at first. I thought it was somebody combining like Bowids with Colubrid.
Right. Yeah, I always thought that was an interesting name that they picked for that podcast because I'm like, doesn't Colubrid just say it? But I guess that's just a slice of the pie. Yeah, I'll definitely.
I'm reading a little bit about Wikipedia. Colubroidy is a subfamily of snakes in the clade Colubroids that includes Colubridae, with some studies splitting Colubridae into multiple families. So splitting Colubrids into multiple families. And it makes sense because as the genetic field advances, taxonomy changes. Yeah, I know, Allie. That's how corn snakes were Elaphia, and now they're pantherophytes, which actually makes sense that they would be, more closely related to rat snakes. It makes sense that would be a pantherophyte. And it makes sense because Colubrid is such a large, like, it almost does seem lazy that, like, everything's, like, pretty much a fucking Colubrid, like garter snakes, heterodon, all these South American species, like musaranas, they're Colubrids, friggin' pipe snakes, leaf nose snakes, like, pretty much any snake that isn't, like, it's like the majority of, like, a lot of species of snakes across the world are Colubrids. So it makes sense that they're coming up with other families that they're, closely narrowing down the taxonomy in these groups. Certain groups are more closely related to others. Yep. So that's something I'll have to read up on more. It's very interesting. Taxonomy, while it does interest me a bit, it's not my main interest because it doesn't really help me too much with a lot of stuff. But it can help with understanding evolutionary relation and stuff, which is definitely interesting. And it's crap that I probably should know.
Yeah, so if it's not a rattlesnake, so if it's not like a viper or an elapid, like you say, basically.
Yeah, if it's not a boid, if it's not like a boid, if it's not a lapid, it's not a viperid, it's basically a friggin' Colubrid. I mean, there's a bunch of other families. If you go on Herp Mapper, it has a long list. And it's not really working on my phone, but anyway.
Yeah, outside of Viperidae, Elapidae, and Boidae, I honestly can't think of any that are outside of Colubridae.
Yeah, those are the most common. There's like once I bring them up, like it'll refresh my memory. There's like there's a decent amount though.
This little one's just calming right down. Huh? Yeah, dude. I don't know. That one scares me. I didn't know that there were all these different classifications of Colubrids. So I guess that's the lesson. But yeah, going back to taxonomy, it's all a bunch of hooey sometimes. Sometimes it's actually been really helpful. I'm more of like a splitter personally because I'm more into like localities, and if I see a difference, then I kind of want to give it full species status in my mind. But recently, a lot of the Lampropeltis were lumped together, and so all of my Pyromilana, which are the Arizona mountain kings, got lumped into Pyromilana nebuloci. And so anything south of the Mongolian Rim, which is like southern Arizona, all of my pyros are in nebuloci, which are nebuloci. I don't have one to show you, but nebuloci have a much more intricate pattern and with a lot more ventral detailing going on and stuff. So a lot of my animals became technically hybrids or interbreeds after that last paper was published in 2018 maybe.
All right, this is on Herp Mapper, and this is taxonomy for different families. So they have Colubrids, then they have Cyclocoridae, they have Boidae, of course, and then they have pythons as Pythonidae or whatever, and so they don't even have it grouped as Boidae for whatever reason. Then there's Anomalepidae. Some of these I'm probably not pronouncing correctly. They have African advanced snakes, Lamprophiidae. There's Paridae, Southeast Asian snail eaters. There's shovel-neck snout snakes, Procyminidae. Madagascar, Elapoid snakes, Pseudo-Oxyrophiidae. So they split them up quite a bit. Then they have Malagasy blind snakes, Xenotyphloidae. They have sunbeam snakes are separate.
Really?
Yeah. They have them in their own like family, but
Sunbeams are
like some of it might be used interchangeably. You know, I could look up something else, and somewhere else might say sunbeam snakes are Colubrid.
Right. Which is what I've always known. Huh. Interesting.
They're saying sunbeam snakes are Xenopellidae.
Sure. Yeah, that's true. They've always had that different genus.
Well, their genus is Xenopeltis, but they're saying that the family is Xenopeltidae.
Okay. So,
but you know, I bet if I look up here, sunbeam snakes, Colubrid, it'll probably say sunbeam snakes, Colubrid. But
is anybody breeding those in captivity yet?
I know some people are trying.
I know people are trying, but I don't know if anybody's been successful, which is interesting.
Studies of DNA suggest that the Xenopeltids are more closely related to the Mexican burrowing python. See, that would definitely, and they're to hear even on Wikipedia. That's not my main source for learning about snakes, but I'm going to take it for now. Anyway,
I would too.
Xenopeltis, they're not really even calling them a Colubrid here. See, I thought their family is not recognized as Colubrid, even on it is same with aligning with Herp Mapper, Xenopeltidae. There it is, Xenopeltidae. So this is a different. And then the genus is Xenopeltis, and the family is Xenopeltidae, and it makes sense because they're saying their next closest relative is actually a python.
Right. True.
It's kind of like the one snail, the Madagascar, or the not the Madagascar, the Malaysian snail eaters. They said they're actually a boa.
I'm not even familiar with that snake.
Yeah, it's some weird niche like species. They're pretty cool. They primarily eat snails. They might eat slugs too. A lot of those snakes, they're like the slug eaters and snail eaters are pretty cool.
Yeah. Do you watch what's Rupert's Reptiles on YouTube?
Who?
Rupert?
No, I don't. I think I've heard of him though.
Yeah, he's a big Southeast Asia herper. He's been doing a lot of Malaysia, Sumatra, like really cool stuff. But yeah, he finds a lot of slug eaters. And it's interesting how you find slug eaters in Southeast Asia as well as like Costa Rica and Central America. And I mean, like same as the ant discussion, it's the same sort of thing. Caloric opportunities, so they're taking advantage.
All right, yeah, because they're saying here it's been subject the biologist question whether heterodon should be in Xenodontidae subfamily.
Oh, right.
Xenodontidae does encompass, like from what I remember, like tricolor hognose, rear fang stuff, such as that. But see, I don't know. Like, here's genetic testing will tell you, but I always under the assumption and the belief that tricolor hognose have no relation to heterodon at all. It's just that phenomenon. I forget what they call it, but when species evolve in completely different areas, very similarly, because it's very advantageous to adapt in that way for their
convergent evolution. Yeah,
exactly, for their climate that they're living in and the prey they're going after. It's like a lot of things. Oh, you know what I was going to talk to you about earlier? It was way early in the conversation. My friend herps a lot. And he was like, here's a picture of this chain king he found. And he didn't think it was that impressive. I thought it was impressive as shit. It was eating a turtle egg. It was raiding a turtle nest, a chain king snake.
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
That's weird.
That is weird. But knowing eastern king snakes, I think I've seen a video on Noah Field channel. I'm pretty sure that he filmed an eastern king like digging up a turtle nest, or it was like just finishing or something. Yeah. Super crazy. I guess
it's cool. I mean, I guess a lot of snakes, like a lot more snakes eat eggs. Like I know somebody that has found baby rubber boas raiding little lizard egg nests, and they're eating. And they said they found it on several occasions. Baby rubber boas going after little lizard eggs.
That I did not know. That I've not heard. Wow.
And this guy, I believe him because he is finding a lot of rubber boas. He is finding a lot of babies. This guy found like tons of babies, like probably like 40 or 50. And so this guy would know, finding that many. It wasn't all in one go, but he had like over the course of months, he is finding like this many. It was like a shit ton. I seen the pictures, like he would have like 8 or 10 of them. And he said that he found numerous ones. going in like in their by lizard egg like nests or where there were lizard eggs, and the ones that he actually found coming across that they're eating lizard eggs. And it kind of makes sense. They have that kind of shaped face. They got that little kind of like, shovelly face, and you always
like a
associate that with
scarlet snake.
Yeah, like a scarlet snake, exactly.
Yep.
Which is funny. I just came across one of those. My friend John Rice spotted it, and that's the first time I ever seen a scarlet snake. It was in Florida.
Cool. That must have been sweet.
All right, and I'm looking up more. Xenodontinae is a subfamily of snakes in the family Colubridae. The subfamily Xenodontinae encompasses a number of rear-fanged, mildly venomous snakes. I'd have to read more, but guess what they have as a picture? A Baron's racer. So it's like, why are they putting them in this subfamily just based off of them having rear-fanged and venomous? So it's like, is garter snakes in there too? It's like, are you going to find anything that's a Colubrid that's rear-fanged and venomous and putting it together? They could have just evolved. They obviously evolved separately. They're not all related because of this one thing. And actually, all snakes evolved from venomous lizards. If you take a reticulated python and you swab their mouth, they'll actually test positive for, I think it's a hemotoxin. And it doesn't mean that they're hemotoxic. There's just ingredients in their saliva that are still remnants of, those trace DNAs from millions of years ago when they evolved from venomous lizard species. So I don't understand. That's why taxonomy. Now I remember why I don't pay attention to taxonomy that much. It irritates me. It sounds like a bunch of smart people that are probably very smart, but they're doing weird stuff that doesn't really make sense. It's like, do the DNA testing first, and it's like, why are you just lumping all of these rear-fanged, mildly venomous snakes all together? Just get fucking everything that has a little bit of venom then and throw it in there.
Might as well. I agree. Yeah, it's like Baron's racers and rhino rats should be in the same family then.
Yeah, it's like, why is it? Yeah, that's how they could be in the same. Like, it sounds like they're just like organizing it based off them being mildly venomous. It's like, that doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with it. We're talking about their relation.
Do they bite a lot? Let's put viper boas in there.
It says a number of rear-fanged, mildly venomous snakes. See, it might not be all rear, but it says encompasses a lot. So I'd have to read more.
Sure.
Oh, that's the other one. It's Dipsis. The genus Xenodon. Then they are to the genus that. Oh, that's on. Never mind. Okay, it's Xenodontinae. That's the one that started with the D. That it's a Dipsedinae.
Okay.
Dipsedinae is a large subfamily of Colubrid snakes, sometimes referred to as the family. Dipsadidae, species of subfamily, are found in most of the Americas, including West Indies, and are most diverse in South America. There are more than 700 members species. And then they have a picture that looks like a snail eater. Like it's a Cibon longforenus. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Yeah, I don't know anything.
It's a snail. It is. That's what I thought it was. It's a fucking snail eater. So now you're going to tell me they're more closely related to a snail eater? Maybe they are. Maybe they are. That would blow my mind. But whatever. I'm getting worked up over this shit. These motherfuckers eat snails, and they live in fucking trees. You're telling me this is more closely related to a heterodon and they should be. These are more closely related to a heterodon than other, Colubrid species. All right. Okay.
And they're lumping something from North America, from the Americas to the West Indies all together. Like
in South America, because these snail eaters, these things are like from Panama. These are like basically it's Latin America, but they're in like Panama, Ecuador. These are parts in South America and then parts of Latin America. Well, whatever. I'm being irritated now. Yeah, this is like, I don't know. Maybe I have an ego. Maybe I'm like agitated. I don't know what my problem is. I don't like taxonomy. I mean, I like it, but when they start doing shit like this, I don't know. They need to explain it to me. They just can't say these wild claims and not explain it and be like, heterodon are actually in a subfamily this bit of whatever day, and also snail and slug eaters are in there too, and so are Baron's racers. It's like, what? Can you explain this to me? No. It's like, well, then fuck off.
Exactly. I agree. I 100% agree.
Yeah, as genetics fields advance, this is what Ali said. Taxonomy changes with increasing speed. They need to speedily explain to me this absurd group. Please. So I can stop being aggro about this.
It would actually be. It would be interesting to have a taxonomist on the show.
That would be. I don't know if they'd want to talk to me though. I don't know if I'd want to talk to me if I was a taxonomist. I'd be, I don't know.
It might be interesting. It might be a very short conversation.
I'm not going to be a dick. Well, from my perspective,
both sides.
From my perspective, they might. The link in the study in the Discord. I want to see their methods. I want to see their methods too. Is it a blindfold and a dartboard?
That might be.
I could just make snide remarks like that to the taxonomist and just interrupt them repeatedly. Be some academic with a bunch of accolades, and they'll be like, you know what? I don't have time for this asshole. And I'll be like, there we go. Look at that. That guy that guy's aggro. Looks like we didn't get anywhere. Looks like these taxonomists really don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to check out this link later, and I'm going to try to read, and I'm going to try to keep an open mind that Costa Rican fucking snail eaters should be in the same subfamily group as my beloved Heterodon. This spindly little fucking cat-eyed looking snake that eats snails, and Barons racers should be grouped together with Heterodon. But not a there are garter snakes in there. Garter snakes better be in there. Because they're like...
I mean, they should be, but...
Yeah, I gotta look at this more now.
They should be.
Now this one is Cybine long fairies primarily feeds on amphibian eggs, particularly frog eggs. So this sounds like more like a cat snake. This one, but then it's a species of snake is found in Panama, Costa Rica, Honduras, and Nicaragua. So this is one species, and the other ones are snail eaters.
Okay.
So I don't know. Here's the thing, man. Like the corn snakes, that one made sense, but that's a genus change, you know. But look at these people that like this. The person that put Gloidai, they just made up. That's just a fantasy. That would be like if I woke up one day and I was like, I want to be important. I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a college degree. I'm going to get a grant. I'm going to find a Western hog that I say looks a little different. I'm going to say I discovered a subspecies. And so I'm going to start fighting cats on that. And then reps attack, they're basically the same thing, nerd. I don't know. Apparently everything's related. All right.
No, there is an element of self-importance in naming things. Well, Lamprepeltis leonis had that same thing. There was a army general with the last name Thayeri who went and collected some animals, and then they renamed the subspecies Thayeri after him. And so you probably heard Thayeri.
Oh, I've heard of Thayeri, man. You had a variable kings.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now it's back to Lamprepeltis leonis again. Now that we.
Okay, I always wondered that because I always get confused with Leonis, Thayeri, and then Greeri confuses me too. Yeah. Greeri is separate though; that's a subspecies, and that's a Durango mountain king snake, right?
They're all full species status now. So Durango and Nuevo Leon have their own species status now.
Wait, so did you say are they subspecies or their own species?
They're their own species.
They're their own species. So Greeri, Leonis, and Thayeri are their own species. Well, Thayeri and Leonis are the same.
Yes.
Yep. And then Greeri is a separate species.
Yep.
They don't integrate.
No, not the
Okay, all right.
No, Leonis and Alterna do, as far as we know. And there's a chance that Mexicana or San Luis Potosi, or however you want to say it, there's a chance that they and Leonis might. And then Durango Mountain, and I think Ruth can stand a pretty good chance, but hasn't been proven. The problem is it's all cartel. Like, it's so fucking dangerous to go anywhere where pretty much those species are in Mexico that most people aren't even going to make that. San Luis Potosi is probably the safest. But, and Jalisco, I was actually going to go to Jalisco in 2015. and I ended up had an issue with my passport, so I went to Hawaii instead. But I was talking to Robert Hansen, and he was like, "If you stay by the beach, you'll be okay, but don't go looking for gray eye in the mountains." Basically,
Okay.
so that's kind of the point of where I'm going.
Yeah, this is John Leibehaber. He has like a scientific sounding last name. It's no wonder this guy's into snakes. It's difficult to pronounce.
Yeah.
Leibehaber.
Really.
Durangos were my first love. I remember reading an article, Reptiles magazine article on breeding greer eye. And it was like when I was like 10 or 11, and a person was talking in the article about the challenges, and they had to brumate them at colder temps, and they found that they had more success. And I remember being really fascinated with that article and actually having an interest in them because of this guy's detailed article. Well, it seemed really detailed to me. It was actually relatively short because, it's in Reptiles magazine, but I was like 10 or 11 years old reading it. And I remember I thought it was really fascinating. And then remember reading articles too about gray banded kings and then people trying to get them to feed as babies and stuff. And, gray banded kings, they were always kind of considered like the holy grail of like the king snakes. As well as probably Zonata too. Zonata, I always thought kind of were considered that too, as well as gray banded kings.
Yeah, and a lot of people have issues getting them to reproduce and doing well. Zonata are pretty hard. That's why you just like them around. Like you can buy a gray banded king any day of the week, but if you want to go buy a California mountain snake, it's going to take you a while.
Yeah, I don't see any like California mountain kings like ever. I feel like.
No.
How much are they even going for now?
I couldn't tell you. The last time I sold some, they were like $500 a piece, but they're probably more now. I did great with them when I first started breeding snakes, but I think it's all just about the amount of attention you're able to provide. Like I know a couple of guys who just keep Zonata, a pair or like a trio, and they do pretty well. But as soon as you go a little bit bigger and you're not able to kind of attend to them, like humidity, I think is issue. So especially being in the Intermountain West, that's pretty hard to keep up on with a human hide and sanitizing it and replacing it. And I honestly think that's the biggest issue that contributes to the problems with one, but nobody really knows.
I see.
They figured it out. Paul Lynham, though, who's one of the GOAT as far as Manfropeltis guys, he did great with Sonata this year. He lives in Arizona, and I don't know how many collections he can produce. He's been posting pictures. I don't know, at least a dozen. So,
yeah, that's pretty good.
I mean,
all right, Joel.
More than that.
We've been talking for 3 hours. I think I want to go drink some water.
Fair play.
Yeah, but it was fun talking. This was actually a really good time.
Yeah, man.
I liked getting into the conversation with you, and this has been a pretty fun one talking about different species of Lampropeltis, herping, taxonomy. It's actually been very fun.
Yeah, we covered it all.
Yeah, we did. Covered a good part of it. All right, cool. So I'm going to go.
All right, man.
Thanks everybody for staying, tagging along, join the conversation. Thanks for Joel for, talking for this extended period of time during this podcast.
Of course. Anytime.
Yeah. And then, you have any last words, anything you want to say?
Go to my MORPH market and buy a snake.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Joel's a good one. Yeah, to follow on MORPH Market and Instagram. He has so many different species. He has rubber bows. He has barred rats. He has rhino rats. He has hognose. He has Arizona mountain kings. He has gopher snakes, bull snakes. He has greer eyes. He has gray bandeds. I think he has theri. Yeah, he has theri. I don't know. Yep. I probably missed a bunch more. He has everything.
That's a good list.
He has ball pythons. He does. Yeah, because he actually had a decent amount at the Salt Lake show, and I know you were talking about some cool morph projects. That's why I brought that up, and you're like,
well, thank God for Colubrids, right?
Yes. All right.
Cool, man. It was good talking to you.
Later, Joel. Bye, everybody. Right. See you later.